Folks, it's been a long while. The winds of winter have passed. The warm riches of spring have arrived. And with it, the 2023 Wiffle season is soon to get underway. There's a lot to talk. It's almost time to get into everything we want to do here in the Wiffling world. It's about time we dust off the good old book, the great old chapter, the great chronicle that is this incredible podcast. This is the Scuffin It Up podcast, returning back for season number 2. It's Ben, it's Connor, it's the greatest world of Wiffle noobs. I got nothing else to say. Let's cue the music. And welcome back in, Wiffling fans. Long over the summer and winter and into the new year. Happy 2023. We are back for season 2 of this, the Scuffin It Up podcast, bringing you season 2, the first episode of this new season on this Tuesday, the 11th of April, year of our Lord 2023. It's been a long while. I know the last episode probably went up around like July the 11th, so we are long overdue. But thankfully, the Wiffs off season has kept us very well entertained, and we got lots to talk today. My name is Ben Fiore, returning from the incredibly amazing Studio 8 in Poughkeepsie, New York, which now has a budget for that beautiful little sign on the back. Go give us some love at Scuffing It Up. Joined as always with my great co-host, somewhere in the caddy shack, might now be a nuclear winter bunker, Connor DaCosta in Madison, Connecticut. Connor, it's been a long while, my friend. It's been seemingly too long since the last time we were talking about the Sawyer Bean fan club, but now we are back for a brand new season. Got a lot of stuff planned as we'll talk it in this episode, but I mean, as always, how you feeling there, Pally?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. And to be honest with you, I'm sure, obviously, I know you've noticed at this point, and like you mentioned, the screen behind me is blurred. That's because I'm on my phone. So, to keep a long story short, my recording software has had to change because when I was making my March Madness bracket, I was going and going ahead and using my laptop and decided to go, hey, I'm not going to work for you anymore. And that was
Ooh,
that.
that's an L in the chat, lads.
So,
That is an L in the chat. Man tried to get Gloria, probably getting maybe 3 picks right this March Madness bracket and decides not to have a computer. But, with the great low budget features of this podcast, that's what we're here for. Picking it up all
but
the way on Zoom, like we did on the first episodes. Kind
yep,
of,
I'm making it
you'll
work.
definitely you'll remember it when we record the first episode back in like November
Oh,
2020 with your mate Liam Wallace. Liam, if you listen to this, shout out to you, my friend. But the first episode when we recorded, back in the podcast, back during COVID, during
yeah.
Zoom University, quite a time. And now, Dilly Dilly, that's the background signage. We have it here. I guess
Where? All right.
it's Dilly Dilly. I guess that's the science. I can't even
Dilly
put
dilly,
it
I
here.
guess.
Dilly Dilly. When in doubt, Dilly Dilly. When the time comes, Dilly Dilly.
Mhm.
As Studio 8 shows us beautifully here in Poughkeepsie, New York. It's definitely a new studio for us. Last time you saw this podcast, I was in a tubular function all the way back in North Haven, Connecticut, in the old Stoppling Wiffling grounds. But we're now back to bringing back to you this podcast, and with a new wrinkle this season because as I started off with season 1, I felt a little discouraged doing it by myself. So I'm like, you know what? Let's bring another person on. Hence 6 episodes and many more memeable moments later, Connor DeCosta is a full-time member of the show. So it would almost seem transitive, almost given at this point that you would think maybe get someone else in the show. You guys are good in some whiffling experiences, but there's
Switch
so much
things
more
up
you
a
guys can
little bit.
cover. Get more flavors of the whole whiffling experience. And when it comes to that stuff, I did some searching, with our incredibly fantastic budget and marketing team, trying to get ourselves some great whiffling hosts to join us, great whiffling personalities. And after a long, exuberant process of an off season that started all the way back in July for us, we found a great member to join us for at least part of the season. At least you'll see his face from time to time, and as you'll come to learn, he's going to become a great friend of ours in the whiffling community. That name
And
to us, you might know him as Weiner Films. We know him as the one, the only, the Ethan. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, third member of the show, Ethan Weiner, coming to us from I mean, if I called Connor a Caddyshack, I think this is probably somewhere in a sewage pipe, somewhere in the greater Boston area, if I'm being honest. But I mean, I'm just going off what I'm seeing, to be honest, but that's what I'm seeing. Ethan, my friend, finally got you on the show after a long consultation. Contract was a very tough process to sort it out, but we know we got everything underway. You met our needs, and we met yours, and now we're together covering the great sport of whips with somehow the greatest degenerate I've ever met in my life, and then me for whatever that's worth, I guess. So I mean, great to have you with us here, and I mean, how you feeling?
Um, Feeling okay. Just happy to be on the pod.
That's a very reassuring sign. Giving the big gotta love to see it. But listen, he's alive and well, and I mean, compared to last week when we were supposed to record this initial episode, I mean, given the fact we're all here, finally recording, somewhat to whatever that means. Being back in the pod, it's great to have everybody, all three of us here. I guess a great old trio. Connor, you'll definitely know it. As big autosport fans, motorsport fans, we're not covering the great sport of webs. You and I both watch the great show, and maybe some of our listeners are probably aware of the show's existence just by the fact that there's probably one morning show everybody knows, Top Gear, with the facts of Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and
Mhm.
James May. I guess you could say now we got ourselves, I guess, the Top Gear trio. We got Jeremy Clarkson, we got Richard Hammond, we got James May. We got the entire team together with the full trio, ready to talk whips on this amazing Wiffling show we
See,
call Scuffin It Up.
and if we're going to go by that analogy, I think you and I both know, Ben, that Ethan is 100% James May.
I think so.
But that leaves me and you. Who is more likely to be Clarkson?
To be honest, I think I'm Jeremy by 100% because I got myself, the incredible, amazing charm of being a whiffling analyst. And I mean, you're the one who actually that's a good. I thought about that because I injured my arm last year. Shouldn't I be Richard Hammond?
I think one, you're that's one thing. And two, Jeremy Clarkson is absolutely a massive man, and Richard Hammond is definitely not.
I mean, I guess you could
So,
say I'm a bit of a massive man, at 5'7", 150, the pride
right.
and joy of Southern Connecticut whiffling
Uh,
experience, if you want to call it that. But I mean, I guess. But then again, I am the host of the show, so that'd be like Richard Hammond running the show after Jeremy Clarkson got kicked off at the end of Top Gear. So
that's a good point.
perhaps awkward, But I'll give myself the title. Nevertheless, though, I am the whiffling noob of America above everyone else in the world, even more than Dougie Bakes.
I don't know about that, Ben. I would say I'm a little bit more of a noob than you are.
I don't know. I don't know. The Sorry Bean fan club gives you a lot of street cred nowadays.
That's
I mean that
fair.
whole MLW generation
Fair.
gives you a whole lot of street cred. I mean, with how they played the end of the last year and through all the amazing stuff with the MLW
You
U17 tournament
seriously
stuff.
doubted me. You doubted me.
I did doubt you. I did doubt you, but I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Also,
I
never mind.
appreciate that.
Anywho. Meanwhile, back in the podcast. When it comes to, I guess we've done enough of the, I guess, the little chit chatters here. May as well go ahead and get started back into this podcast. And as we go on about the show, we have a bunch of stuff planned for the second season of the show. A bunch of new segments, a bunch of new formats we're going to be rolling out throughout the year, and a lot of whiffling hosts you never even thought that a bunch of us clowns could ever dare get on the podcast. So looking forward to that. We'll discuss a little bit more of what we've been up to over the last, 9 months later on in the show. But in traditional whiffling fashion, we must get into the meat and potatoes of why everyone listens for at least the first 10 minutes and what generates, all of our views. That, of course, has to be the Wiffle in 180, the fastest recap of all things Wiffle around the country in 180 seconds or less. We got even with the fact that it's been, I guess, a little bit of an off season, and most of this, there's still a slight slowdown of news, at least compared to like what was going on when we weren't recording in the late summer and early fall, like UF's time last year. There are some stuff that we want to at least go into, get covered a little bit, and I've covered a couple of notes to share with you of things that have occurred in the last couple of weeks from not just here from us, at least from me, I guess in New England, but from all around the country, Midwest, West Coast, East Side, West Side, doesn't matter. We got whiffling stuff from all parts of the country, which is great to see. So, as in traditional fashion, even though it's a new season, the tradition hasn't changed. Pull out your stopwatches, pull out your contracts, pull out your non-disclosure agreements, pull out your Pythagorean theorem sundials. I don't care what you do, and we'll get started in 5, 4, 3. I cannot believe we're even doing this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go ahead and get this started. First off, we got to talk about, of course, America's favorite league, Major League Wiffle MLW, with the news last month that that the commissioner Kyle Schultz let everyone know on the Instagram social media page that teams can now opt out of the MLW draft beginning next year, 2024. This is big news considering that some of the teams, I guess you could say, were kind of being more reserved on getting more distant picks, and I guess they've kind of threw a lot of the player talent in the Midwest. I guess on the side note, also, we will be seeing the MLW draft video coming out this Friday, April the 14th. So be on the lookout for that to see the 8 picks as they go down live on YouTube. Also in the past little bit, we also have East Coast Wiffle, everyone's favorite wiffling scene for fast pitch in the Northeast. They released their 2023 schedule, and it will be returning for 5 dates, all in the Old Cray home that is Danvers, Massachusetts. They have dates set right now for May 7th, June 11th, July 9th, and August 13th for regular season dates, as well as a playoff tournament on September the 23rd. Again, all those dates will be played in Danvers, Massachusetts. Switching over to the other big fast pitch league in the country, Mid Atlantic Wiffle will begin kicked off next, or I guess it is next weekend, April 22nd for the opening day tournament. 24 teams, and for everyone who doesn't know yet, that tournament sold out immediately. The tournament went live for sale for teams to enter in mid-February. It maybe took, I don't even know, maybe a week. And it's already and fell to 24 teams and even had teams on the back order. So incredible sight to see there. A bunch of teams that are coming in brand new to MIW will make their debuts, including the Dark Knights from Golden Stick Yard League. What was going to be a debut for them as well, but sadly no longer is. The team 80.4, which feature guys from Bay City Wiffle as well as MLW. There are also a bunch of teams making their debuts. They're coming off appearances in the latest Unite Wiffle Ball World Championship Tournament, including the Circle City Skull Crushers, Cajuns, Canes, and TC35, just to name a few. That tournament will be kicking off on April 22nd, the official start to the fast pitch season in 2023. Coming back to our neck of the woods in Connecticut, unfortunately, there was the news in early February that the Connecticut Wiffle Ball League Elite League will be ceasing their operations as of February the 6th. Unfortunately, the league was unable to find a sufficient number of teams in order to fill the league, and without much of a sustainable option, according to, I guess, yours truly, Ben Fiore, it wasn't sustainable an option to keep the league going. So unfortunately, after 2 seasons in 2020 and 2021, the Connecticut Wiffle Ball League, at least for playing wise, is no more. We also had a couple of drafts going on in other leagues around the country, including EWA, Ridley Park, MoWiff, Skibby, as well as Big League Wiffle Ball. Also, I guess Big League Wiffle Ball also just kicked off their season not too soon ago, so go check them out if you haven't already. The one of the great leagues out on the West Coast, JAL, kicked off their 24th season on March the 6th. Shout out all the way out on the West Coast, giving some love to Washington Wiffle Ball. Also staying on the West Coast, going to the warmer hemisphere, Premier League Wiffle has already begun construction on their brand new fields as they hope to be finally coming back after they secured a property to resume league operations sometime around the late December time last year. Tryouts were held for players on March 22nd and 25th, and according to rumors on other podcasts in the Wiffling world, PLW is hoping to make a return sometime around the July and August time. So great to see the Wiffling movement out west. It's been definitely a long time since they've seen the action all the way back in the later part of May and June last year. Big part of Wiffling news over the offseason finally got completed in the last couple of weeks. The Drop 100 has finally gotten through the top 10 players in the nation, and for the second time in the last 4 or 5 years in the history of the list, Ryan McGilrath of the Juggernauts was named the National Fast Pitch Player of the Year. He was the number 1 player ranked on the rankings, alongside a number of big names inside the top 5, including Circle City's Will Smitty, Jug's teammate of Ryan McGilrath, Ben Stant, Jordan Robles from the Phenoms, as well as Earl, as it'll be for 2023, as well as Vin Lee, also teammate of Jordan Robles from the Phenoms. I guess we'll wrap things up here quickly with some Connecticut stuff. The Daring Wiffle Ball League, the Backyard League, is right now going into its 5th and final season, as the team announced back in January. This will be their final season of operations. They just got the season underway in middle of March, and it's already seen some big moves go on in terms of the 8 teams competing over there. The 7-4 Wifflers, who've generally been around the mid-pack team, are off to a phenomenal start. And they've started their season off 6-0 on the 12 to 14 game schedule, including a sweep of the much favorite team from last season, the commissioner-led Coastal Cyclones. Almost put that name up. And finally, wrap things up all the way in the Norwalk League, the Norwalk family Wiffle Ball League to be exact, as they also kicked off their season just this past weekend over the Easter break. With 8 of the league's 9 teams in action, and included sweeps from the Scorpions, Wolfpack, and Shady Beach Sharks. And with that, that's all the stuff I have for right now. If I've even gotten anything close to 3 minutes, that for this week is your Wiffle in 180. Connor, I'm not sure anyone was keeping time on that. I think I may have gone a little bit overboard, but I think I may have just gone through everything. Maybe. Does anyone have a watch if I got close? No?
I think you're a little over.
Ethan, I was trying to be a bit optimistic here, okay? I know I went over, okay?
I'm pretty
I
sure
was
you
trying
went
to.
over there a little bit, Ben.
I mean, listen,
Hey,
even if I did, it is the off season. We were off the show for the last 9 months, so got to get a couple of things noted on there. Some couple noble things locally to us, at least, as well as a couple of things from all the big leagues around the country. So got everything covered up there. A couple of things, including MAW, which I know Ethan. I'm not sure if you've told us yet, but are you going to MAW opening day next weekend?
I'll be there.
He will be there, ladies and gents. Winder Films live and in action, MAW opening day. Who knows? Maybe we'll see him on Athlete's Foot podcast potentially as a guest host there as well. We'll have to see how that goes at that point. I think
There will be a live
I
podcast
heard
at
there will be a
open.
live podcast. I was listening to them
Oh,
over spring
I'm
break.
sure I'll be involved with that, especially whatever team I'm on. Probably won't make it as far as the Stompers if I'm on a team. So
Well, I mean, listen. Will be great to have your voice over there as well. I mean that tournament from everything it seems to be is really going to be the baby nationals. I guess the second coming of the UF's tournament. I guess a little preseason kind of thing for it to get things kicked off.
it's
So it should be a really fun, interesting tournament, and I'm looking forward to it because I mean it's the official start to Fast Pitch before everything gets started with MLW and ECW and all the fun stuff, tournaments, what have you. All that stuff gets kicked off. So big shout out, biggest tournament outside of probably nationals for the year. So great thing to look out for there. I mean, great to see also the backyard leagues in Connecticut getting stuff underway. Connor, I guess we'll be talking about later the CT Wiffs review and everything we're doing for 2023. Now that leagues are underway. There's some stuff we will be discussing about that. I mean, we got Maw to discuss. I mean, we got so much stuff, but we're just gonna take a quick little break here, get our thoughts together. Maybe I need to figure out what 108 seconds is, but we'll figure it out in short time. But we'll take a quick little break here. This is the Scuffin It Up podcast. We return to you after this short break. 2. And welcome back, Wiffling fans. This is the Scuffin It Up podcast, now with Ben and Connor, but also the great Ethan Weiner. Great to have you back here on this episode. And as we come back from this break, we wanted to do something probably you're not expecting. You know, I think a lot of the previous episodes in last season, we did a lot of talking. We did a lot of stuff with Wiffle talking, but we didn't really get a chance to really talk about, I guess, personal lives and how it has affected the podcast. Generally, with the fact we've been off for the off season for about the last 6 to 9 months, you're probably wondering why there was a break in the podcast. You're probably wondering where on earth my social security number is. You're probably wondering what the hell has even gone on with us over the last, I don't even know how long it's been. It's been seriously such a long time, but I just want to give a little bit of an update. I guess we all can kind of just chime in a little bit and just, give a little shout out, I guess, Connor, you and I more specifically of how things have been going with, I guess, the life stuff, just generally life stuff, Wiff stuff, what we're looking forward to the year because Wiff season's getting underway. So I guess maybe a little chat too, a little bit more a bit more personally about what things are expecting over the next couple of months. I know personally for me, it's a bit tougher to get this Wiffling season underway, knowing that CTWL is sadly, at least playing wise, as I said during the Wiffle 180, that CTWL is sadly dead in the water. RIP, rest in potatoes on that one. Cue the sad violin from SpongeBob SquarePants on that one. I was not expecting you to sing that, but I mean, we'll take that in 240p, whatever audio rate you got. That works for me.
Yeah, that works.
That works. Just like Bill Wirtz. Shout out Bill Wirtz.
I said
But
works, Ben.
I know, and I said works like Bill Wirtz.
Yeah, and
Anywho,
you're making this works right now.
I know it's great. It really is Wirtz. But personally for me,
Yeah.
I'm actually right now working towards getting out of college finally. Cue the incredible Hallelujah Heavens music on that one. Right now, as you guys can see, Studio 8 is my college dorm right here, Marist College, Poughkeepsie, New York. And in about a month's time, I will be graduating with my bachelor's degree in computer science, aka the profession where you sit behind a screen and you save the world like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. Sick job, really hard major, but really glad to see it finally coming together here, coming to an end after these long 3 years. And I know that with how I want to put this, last fall, there was probably definitely a lot of time to do podcast episodes for me, but I was also capping at the same time. I was like giving like a serious major course load, and with the fact we were so backlogged on episodes we haven't even covered in July, like the Sawyer Bean episode, it just never got the gears going to get the podcast going, and it really kind of went off to the side, personally, to get the stuff done. But long last, we are finally back. I will hopefully with this time once I'm graduated next month, I'll finally have time to dive into the podcast, given that I won't be at school or will I be tied up really running league operations. So I will be back to cover all that stuff, back to cover this great stuff with you guys, Connor especially, and Ethan when he's joining us. But at the same time, also, Connor, sadly, and Ethan, I am sadly in the hashtag unemployed. I am officially a broke boy when it comes to the Wiffling life. Not because I went to excursions during their health, sure, shadow excursions, great Wiffling source, gold sponsor of us. Not because of the fact I spent all the money and wholesale boxes of wiffle balls, but because I'm also in the job of trying to get an internship at the same time. And that's also been like a draining big thing for me. I think probably in the last couple of months, like 3-4 months, I probably applied to like 30, 35 companies, and I've gotten a response and interview from like 4 or 5. So, that's great. It's really a uplifting experience, just like it's uplifting when you see a Zach really screwball at 85 miles an hour on the bagpipe and you realize you have no chance to hit it. It's up there. I mean, Connor knows what I'm talking about. He might moan and groan, but
I know
it's the
all too
truth.
well what you're talking.
It's a sad feeling. You see it coming. It's like why is it possible? It's like the meme. Why is it possible? But thankfully in the last like week, I've had a couple of interviews go well, so I'm praying to God I won't be broke anymore. And when that happens, maybe I can save up a little cash, make it out to a couple of tournaments. Get the whiffling juices back up and flowing. I mean, I've been dying to play for the last year and a half since we shut it down our last season back in August 2021. It's been that long. Holy crap. But hopefully 2023 is going to be a year where even when I was just not doing the podcast, I'm like 2023, it's going to be the year I get back into playing Wiffs. There's no substitute, no excuse. I want to play. I want to at least try myself at competitive Wiffs. If I suck, I suck. If I'm the greatest thing of all time, then even better. But this year was kind of just to get back on the podcast, get more serious with that. But Wiffs wise, get back to playing. Thing number one. That's been a big thing for me. But I mean, Connor's still in the Caddy Shack, so it seems
Yep,
like from the last time we recorded, last time we were doing just whiff stuff, it's been same story, different day for you. But I mean,
for the
Amazon, you've
most
told
part.
me, I guess, inside that you've been doing a lot of Amazon work. Becoming like
Right.
37-time employee of the month. So I mean, you've been busy with taking care of that stuff, haven't you?
Uh, I wouldn't say 37-time employee of the month, but I definitely am. Definitely am at least getting some recognition, and
Other boy.
I'm working in a bunch of different areas there, and trying to make the most out of my time there. Just a few months shy of getting another raise, so um,
Attaboy.
I'm,
Shout
I'm,
out Wiffle players getting raises. I
I'm
mean, honestly, I mean, because if you can get a raise at your job, Wifflers should simply just get paid to play. I mean, honestly, like, what are we doing? Charging money to go to tournaments? Like, come on, give us the money to come play. Like, seriously, honestly.
pretty
But I
happy about
mean,
that. But
yeah,
but obviously with the CTWL shutting down for the year, it kind of left me without a real true place to play wiffle ball. I know actually Ben, you and I actually looked into it. There was a place that's not too far away from me or you. It's 2 towns over essentially from the both of us. So uh,
you talk about Meriden. Is that the league
yeah,
you're
I'm
going on
talking.
about?
I know we were both looking into that briefly, but
Uh huh.
obviously that didn't wind up coming to fruition. At least for me, I don't know if it would have for you. It probably
It
would,
would have, but
maybe.
without a team, it just didn't make sense. Unfortunately,
Exactly.
that's
And
the
for
situation.
me it wouldn't have because I remember I believe it ran like Sunday or Saturday, Sunday,
It was
and
like yeah, it was like Sunday
it
or
was
something like that,
yeah,
late night Sunday.
and you know full well that I work the weekends, and that would just not be possible for me.
Can't be a wiffle player
But
work the weekends, Connor. Come on now.
but here's the thing: I have actually signed up to play slow pitch softball for the first time.
Oh my goodness. Connor has decided to be an absolute bum and play beer league softball. Ladies and gentlemen, give it a round of
Hey,
applause.
hey.
Love to see
Not
it. You
not
love
beer
to
league,
see it.
not beer league.
Wait,
It's run
what?
by a church.
Folks, let's pray for our young soul, Connor DeCosta, who has decided to play heaven's version of beer league softball. May his career forever rest in peace. Amen.
Oh,
Okay, great, awesome. It's. I mean, I'm not trying to diss
it's
the church and its
something.
institution,
It's
but
something.
you're playing beer league at the church. I mean, come on now. Wait, where are you playing though?
It's over in Mystic, actually, in like
You're going to
Mystic
Mystic to
Valley.
play? You're not playing like Madison or Clinton or like the five towns around you? What? Are you kidding
Yeah,
me?
it's not
Oh
that
my
far.
gosh.
It's really not that far.
For you,
This
for me,
is
it's like another half hour for me, so I can do
Right.
that.
For you, it's far. For me, it's not too far.
Yeah, but I mean, at least we're still playing. So I mean, you get to go and hit bombs. I mean, you have to face Sif, so I mean, that's a immediate plus. I mean, that's
Exactly.
solid for you. Shout out Sif. I mean, I to be honest, on side note, I've not heard anything from Sif since we ended up not playing in August. I wonder how he's doing. Oh yeah, that's right. He's in the drop top 100 as a 22-year-old phenom that still no one knows his name about. He's doing fine, I guess. I mean, I guess
I
he's
would
doing
say
not
he's
too
doing
too bad.
fine.
He's doing just fine. Why bring him up?
honestly should have been ranked higher
What?
too. He probably should have been ranked higher too.
Serious? You think higher than 96?
I mean, oh, let me pull up the drop 100.
All right, well, you pull up that. We
You,
actually we're going to cover that a little bit later. So actually, if you want to hold your thought for a second, we will cover into that. But
he's just
just
not known
honest,
well enough, in my opinion. I
yeah,
agree with you.
I was listening to like a Holy Commutes episode back in like December, January time, whenever the season was, like the season before this one, and they did a draft of all the players of like 100 to 76, and then they brought the Zach Siv, like the one of the last picks. So like, I don't know who this kid is. I'm like, some of you played this kid. Some of you guys actually played ECW. You can't tell me you don't know who this kid is. You literally played at the same tournament as this kid. I'm like, what? I
Yeah,
mean,
come on.
they weren't dog do like some of the other teams. They weren't poor performing. They won some games. They were respectable. I mean, they were never going to challenge, you know, um, the
The
phenoms or
phenoms.
like the
Yeah.
603s and the black dogs, like the big three that we all know, the 603s and all the big teams. But they were
No.
halfway decent. They were like, at least like to me, they were almost like an Alpine, like an F1. They were like a best of the rest. They were a solid midfield team. So I mean, for me, they did better. But that's a whole different conversation. We'll talk about that just in a second. But I know I definitely wanted to bring something up though. You mentioned that we were going to play in the Meriden Plastic Baseball League, a
Mhm.
league that reached out to us the moment after our season sadly got shut down for CTWL back in February. Um, I was looking to play that league, and actually, right now, I still might go play it as a part timer to kind of just be a fill in from time to time, just to keep loose. But I mean, still, as a side note, it sucks not playing fast pitch. It really sucks because really, outside of that, our only options are to either drive 3 hours to Boston to play ECW, or to drive like 5 hours to Pennsylvania, almost Maryland, to play Maw. So,
Not it's not 3 hours to Boston.
for me in North Haven, it is absolutely two and
It's
a half,
one.
three.
Really? Is it
It's.
that
Yeah.
you're that much
And also
advantage?
I
you gotta
don't
drive
think
the
it's
mass.
that long.
You got you gotta drive the mass pike, which is
I don't think it's that long
hellhole.
for you, Ben. To be honest with you, because think about it. If you take 15 and you find your way up, or even if you take 91 to 84, you're
No,
not,
yeah, you take 21 to 84.
I don't know.
yeah.
Google Maps then tricking me then because
For me,
they were saying like two and a half
I
at
can
least.
just do I can just do 95 for basically the whole way up. To be
Oh,
honest,
but you hit Providence traffic. You're screwed though, for real. I mean, not that
there's
it like
ways to
matters,
get around Providence traffic, Ben. Believe me.
but
You guys take
go ahead.
395 up to 90 or 290.
Oh, 295. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
possible.
You can 100% take 395.
Yeah,
That's
you can take it
that,
with
that
you can take it with
if
me.
you recognize
You can
if
take it
you
with me if
recognize
we go.
if you recognize that there's traffic on 95, then just take 395. because that's right
Yeah.
after the. For us, it's right after the bridge.
Hey man, I'm just trying to get the economic route because the official vehicle of the CTW of the now deceased CPWL, the 2003 GB Liberty Freedom
What do
Edition.
you mean deceased?
What do you mean deceased? It is deceased.
Not quite deceased.
It's
Giving
I'm
up.
dead.
deceased. We don't have a league to play
Giving
in.
up. You've heard it here, folks.
Ethan,
Not
you're like 2 months
deceased
late.
yet.
Shout out.
Not deceased
Um,
yet. Ben.
I mean, from a playing stance, we probably are for at least the foreseeable future. Because, I mean, if you want to go on that rant, I guess I can go down that rabbit hole. How would I even want to tackle this? I got to think about this. Um, I mean, the fact if you want my personal opinion of why we even canceled the CTWL in the first place, the Elite League operations for the year, it wasn't the fact we obviously couldn't get teams because, I mean, we dealt the same thing last year and that was a go figure. And you could be like, oh, just cancel off another year and wait another year and this, and why not just, keep it going? And I mean, Connor, you probably are going to still fight me on this to this day. I know it was a tough decision to make that in the first place, but when I just looked at the overall Wiffling landscape, right? You probably remember, Connor, when we did the CT Wiffle Awards last September, and we said there's like
Yep.
what 220 players, 8 leagues, 50 teams. We have enough Wiffling talent out there. Enough. If you took 10%, like one every 10 players, we'd have like 20 players. We'd have 4 or 5 additional teams. We'd be a 6 to 8
Yep.
team healthy league with players, especially like the Fairfield County region, where 90% of these leagues are. If we can't market to them and get them to join the league, as we have done in 2020, in 2021, in 2022, in 2023, what difference is it going to make if we wait every other year? What difference is it going to make if they haven't wanted to do it, and when they're 15, when they're 18? When it comes to Wiffs, especially with so much golf going on in life, and we know it too firsthand, why is it going to get any better? It only gets worse to
Exactly.
find these people who are not just talented, but even care for Wiffs or have the time for it in the first place.
I know.
So
And you and I actually, when we were actually talking about shutting down operations for the league, we discussed this exact issue, and I actually was talking to you about that. I remember telling you, I was like, I think the main issue that's stopping us from really moving forward is that, yeah, in other states, you got guys who play wiffle ball for fun, but you also got guys that play like wiffle ball like at a serious like level.
right.
Here in Connecticut, ironic that it is the case with considering that the wiffle ball was invented here. Like besides us, I don't really think there's maybe 10 other players that actually would want to be like completely serious about it.
And that's exactly my point. We have all the
Wait,
players, all the talent. We
that
cover them
are
in the
from
CTUS
Connecticut?
review and the backyard review and all this stuff, and they
Or
don't want to
at
play.
least
And they don't want
at,
to play. So like at this point, what's the point of keeping this together? I mean, I would love to. I'm a fast pitch guy. I love the style, and I think these kids could really be awesome. I'm not just saying that for business reasons. I'm genuinely serious. I think they should take a chance at it. If I can
to
do it,
adjust
I never played high school baseball. I don't have any half of the experience of doing any of this stuff. But if I can do it, if I can be slightly above average and be not an absolute embarrassment on the fast pitch field, these kids totally can.
to
So
adjust my answer a little bit. I know Ethan was about to cut me off because I know that full well that there's a bunch of players that are a bit older than us that are from Connecticut that are way more serious than we'll probably ever
I
be
yeah, I
then.
know you're talking about like
But
the Kayvons and
as
the
far
T Wags and the Norrises and
right,
everybody.
but as
Yeah,
far as
exactly. Norris is from Connecticut.
Yeah, but
as
T-Lex
far as
Ethan,
from
we've been
our
over this
age
and we've
though,
been talking this
as
out
far as
Connecticut.
personally.
our
If
From
they
age,
play,
Connecticut.
hold on a second,
That's
give me a
why
sec.
I was like, "Are you serious?"
Dude, if we played Kevin Norris and
there are
T-Wag,
numerous
we would
players.
get fucking embarrassed. Part of my language on the podcast. We'll have to blip that out. But I'm being dead serious when I say it. It would not even be close. It would not even be close, which is why we kind of do it the way we do it. We want these kids to get
But
halfway
that's how
decent
it is.
before we throw them to the lion's den. We're trying to get encourage them rather than discourage them at first sight. And but that's just a whole different side of it.
And
But
to be fair, like Ben, I obviously you know more than I do. They're what a good bit older than we are, right?
I go bet like some of them are like their late 20s, early mid 30s, like
Exactly.
significantly older than we are.
What our vision was for our league, and I think even at the start, I think when we started the league, I think you had set the maximum age for like 22. Obviously, if we get started over again, that would have to be adjusted, of course, I would think, if we want to like really get a kick start on our league again. But at the end of the day, name one kid our age or even younger from Connecticut that is like one like half as serious as we are.
I wish I could say more, but they can't. I mean, there's again talented players all over the place. I can name them all by name. The likes of like Gordon Washburn, the likes of Sam
It's
Donnie, the likes
just
of an Artie
so
Kochia, and kids we've seen, Connor, we've watched them face to face, and I'm naming them by
mhm.
name because I think they're not half bad. Again, if I can
They're
do it,
great
these
whifflers.
kids totally can. They're totally competent wiffle players for
They're great
what they do
whifflers.
in the backyard scene. They're totally competent. So why they don't want to do it, I honestly have no idea. Again, I'm not forcing it on anybody.
I think here's
Seriously,
the
and
thing. Here's what remember what I was talking to you about. Here's the thing that I think that kind of keeps them from moving to that serious side of things. They've had that league for a while since they were young. The same thing goes for like the
right,
kids
right.
from like Stanford, for example, the kids from where is it at? Um
Norwalk. Did
blanket
you say
no,
Norwalk yet?
them two. Um
Stanford, Norwalk, Darien, all
yep.
the
They
shoreline
all
leagues.
started when they were young and they let's be real. When we started, we were serious right off the bat. We weren't out there to have fun. Like, I mean, we were, but we were
If you're not,
serious.
if you're not,
We
of
were
course
out
we're
there
trying to
to
have
have
fun.
fun, but we were definitely more serious
Yeah.
than other leagues. The other leagues that formed here, to be honest, I find them to have been like leagues that were formed just to like have something to do after school or just have fun amongst guys.
Right.
And I mean, yeah, they're great wiffle talents. If they want to go, if they wanted to go serious about it, they would have. But I just don't get it.
Yeah, nor do I, and that's kind of it's the frustration that's I guess in this whole little bit of a rant here. It even to the point where it got me to
Hmm.
even to be profane on the podcast, which is family friendly. That doesn't tell you my average, my at least my attitude on this I guess issue or topic. Then I guess I don't know what will at that point. But when we have all this talent, we literally are I guess one of the most rich backyard leagues in backyard states in the country when it comes to backyard leagues. To put it that way, we're even to the point where the Cooks back in like 2021 when we saw we did the CT Whiffs review for the very first time and they pointed it out. It's like, hey, there's all these kids here. They recognize what we're doing. Like the people in charge of Whiffs know what's happening. The people at ECW, like when we shut the league down on our league Instagram, Rob Sutton with the Whiffaholics, who has ties to run the ECW Instagram page, reached out to us and tried to encourage me specifically. I mean, who else was he gonna encourage at the end of the day? He encouraged me to try to reopen up registration and try to get more teams. And I tried to explain to him we did everything. We applied to every league. We've been up every league's arse since early last year. We got our first season canceled. We've been at this for about 15 to 18 months. If we can't convince them by this point, when is it going to hit? When is it again? When
Hmm.
is it going to hit? If it isn't now, when they're young and they're in high school and they're vulnerable and they have the time to do this stuff, and not when they're 22, like me, and doing all this college stuff and all this, I'm not asking people. Oh, I hit my mic there. Whoops. I'm not asking everybody to run a league. I'm not asking people to put their literally do the life, blood, and soul like say like a baseball kind of thing. That's not kind of what wiffle ball is necessarily. Even at the professional level, it's still something you do a couple of times for a couple of tournaments a year. I think what we asked was fair, reasonable, didn't really necessarily hurt their local competitions, and was going to be something to help their leagues and get just CT Whiffs in general popularized and well known, not just your T Wags and your Norrises who've been out there since we've been prepubescent. That's kind of been the whole point. But
Hmm.
it's a
And
mute point if they don't really, gel to the idea, no matter what we do, what we say. It's at the end of the day, like CTWL was formed. This is by the players for the players. This is meant to
mhm,
develop them. This isn't for a monetary gain. I'm not trying to do this to make money. I'm not doing this to scam anybody. We're doing this to develop good young whifflers to promote and grow the sport for the long term. Because this was the problem, Ethan, that hurt wiffle ball in the 2010s when we lost players and we almost didn't have a natty for 3 years. How can we solve that problem? Get more players into it. Get these high school, college age players playing, and you never know what happens. We fell on Zach Sip by accident. Look where that kid is right now. again, I'm not asking every kid to be Zach Siff, but again, he also didn't play in the league before.
And
He's been pitching since 15 years old. He did not play high school baseball. He's not this D1 6'3", 200-pound stud going to Vandy. You don't
the
have to be
last
that. That's the beauty
time
of Wiffs. That's the
the
beauty of
last
Wiffs.
time I had seen Zach play baseball was way back in Babe Ruth. And that was
Exactly.
like, because I don't know if a lot of people noticed, I'm obviously from the same town as Zach and Matt and everyone that was on his team. And didn't even know that any of those guys that were on their team played wiffle ball, like, and were nearly as good as like they actually wound up being. They were the last second team, and we were like, okay, we'll see how it goes. You ranked them last in the power rankings, and they nearly had an undefeated season. I was like,
Mm-hmm. If it wasn't
hmm.
for the Great Liam flying, that was going to be an undefeated season for the ages, honestly. But
But
I mean, again, like anything I'm saying here, it's a mute point. Sadly, it's over for the moment. I mean, most leagues were probably happy that we're probably not DMing them in the offseason anymore, for being brutally honest. And,
and
that kind of
I
saddens my
actually,
heart because,
yeah,
go ahead.
I
No,
want to
no, you're
actually
saying.
I want to actually bring Ethan in here too.
Yeah, let's bring
To
Ethan on this because he's been watching this cry and rant for the last, I don't know how many minutes on this
exactly. I
ridiculousness
want to
over
see.
a wet dream that's over.
I
Go
want to
ahead.
see what advice Ethan would potentially have. Like you, Ethan, you have far more knowledge, I think, than either of us have as far as Wiffle is concerned, because you've been basically everywhere that Wiffle has played. And uh, let me ask you this: like, have you seen something like this happen before, or something similar to this, where like you have a league that starts out pretty good and it just goes to a point where there's no interest anywhere.
Well, I mean, like, there's leagues open and close all the time. You, you see it all over the country.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I played 1 year in that Bay State Wiffle. No, I played 2 years in that, and after they kind of didn't have the same presence with the Golden Stick guys. I know that league wasn't as strong, but like you even look at something like GSTC, like GSWL Fast Pitch, it died. Um,
Heck, even the revival even was dead on arrival. Did it even last a year, like 2016, 17? It was quick.
I mean, 26. I don't remember there being much fast pitch football.
Even GSWL Pro before ECW, that was I think even shorter lived.
Well, I mean, GSW Pro like turned into ECW. Like
Exactly. I mean, it was the very
they're
grassroots
they're
beginning of
really
it.
the same thing, but like before GSW Pro, like there just wasn't much. And like everyone was going to Palisades.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Great League
guys like
Palisades.
guys like Dave Fisher, Brian DiNapoli would make the Tom Gannon would drive all the way out to New York to play in that league. Like that league really took off. Um,
Right.
and that league's also not around. Um, and
I mean,
there,
shame about Palisades. That should have never have died. Honestly, I still can't believe that league
Yeah.
died.
yeah, I mean when certain things happen,
Yeah.
and I wasn't in Palisades, so I don't know too much about the fall, and I don't really want to talk about it too much because I'll probably get a lot of details wrong, honestly. But and that league was supposed to come back as a ECW, as you guys may know. It
Mhm.
was supposed to be like East Coast Wiffle, and
I remember that.
Torres was gonna run that. And I'm pretty sure that was gonna be like a tourney circuit, but it was gonna be at those same fields at that I believe it was an elementary school
Yeah.
um that it was at. So you see leagues go up and down all the time. start end. I mean, that's just the nature of our sport.
Yeah.
Uh,
I feel that on that. And then I think just to fill in, I guess, a little bit on that. That's kind of what we were trying to do because we see these leagues again, like I guess ECW, like Golden State Pro back in the day, they lose the player bases and like Palisades. I mean, it wasn't necessarily the fact they have players, but there was a league that died. And of course, the biggest back you can have to these leagues is players. They again are the controlling force of this entire sport. Wherever they go, the leagues, the talent, everything else goes. So when it came to doing CTWL with these high school and college guys, it was getting again those guys into that next step. If they can go from backyard to this, they can make the next step to filter those leagues. It just trickles its way up the ladder, up this Wiffling pyramid, at least that I see it. I guess that's a whole theory for another time, another podcast episode. But trying to keep the heads up. And as I was saying with Rob Sutton, not emailing, DMing us on Instagram, and I'm grateful for his contributions, him reaching out to us. That was really awesome when I saw it because, to be really honest, I thought they never even thought about seriously who we were as a league. I don't know why the hell you're on Shisha on my background. I'm not sure you guys heard that. That was a bit weird. Anywho, but he was saying like you gotta keep this going, help it out to March and April. Hold it, keep it going whenever you can, because I think they see the importance of having these leagues and seeing what we've done in the past. But again, I've said it once, I'll say it a million times. If the players don't see the vision, no matter what we do, what we sell, whatever we try, it's a mute point. And unfortunately, it's become really white noise to these leagues and these players. And unfortunately, it's the circumstance we're now in. And I'm personally, when I started this league all the way back in 2018, when I was done playing high school baseball and done by being cut back all those times as a junior, I formed this league with a presence, kind of this mind of just trying to get the backyard leagues involved a bunch and try to get them to sell them in the idea of how cool fast pitch is, to how cool Connor and Ethan, you guys seen it, we've seen it over the last couple of years and had the privilege to be a part of it in different forms, different mediums, different rules of that sort. But it's hard to get that across, and we tried to do it with the league. We tried to do it, try to get the travel, low cost, and all the measures we tried to have it be in the past, and things financially, logistically, we've had to sacrifice to make that happen. And still, at the end of the day, it doesn't meet their demands, or they just simply don't give a damn about the whole competitive scene. So I feel as if we can't do it, or even if it's being like, as far as I'm concerned, like the only league who's really tried something like this for an amateur audience, not like a fully professional or fully casual audience, like there's something in the middle. If we can't do it, who can? Who else can? Is it going to be like an MLW? Is MLW going to be like the only power that can get these leagues to rise from the ashes, like we've seen the backyard leagues the last 3-4 years with we've seen in Connecticut? I mean, they're basically all MLW leagues wannabes, want to put themselves on YouTube and Instagram and all this stuff. It's what they are, for better or for. I don't think they're bad leagues, but I mean that's kind of the inspiration for all of it. It's half the inspiration we're even Connor and I are. You and I are here in the first place. So if we can't do it, if we can't get them on this trade to continue fast pitch whiffs, what does that mean for the future of the game? What does it mean for 3, 5, 10 years? Are we going to have another recession of the sport? Are we going to go through this up and down loop of everything? Because if we aren't doing it, where else is it coming from in New York? Is it going to be again MLW, and that's we're going to ride and die by MLW? Because we've rode and die in one league, at least my opinion. When we've, as a community of whifflers, rode and die historically in the past, it's kind of been a bit of a downfall. I guess kind of with the fact of when I have like fast plastic, kind of again, like the longer these leagues go on, the more chances something goes awry. They try to do too much or too little. That upsets the player base. Players leave, and like that's the end. Like MLW's been great for the last 5, 10, and soon to be 15 years, which is crazy enough. In a couple of years, it'll be 15 years they've been around. Crazy stuff. But you always have to wonder, how long can MLW's dominance reign? And when that dominance ends, who's going to pick it up? Is it AWA? Is it PLW? Who's going to be it? But no one's really seizing the moment beyond MLW. And to me, that worries me. It's half the reason why I see MLW, or not MLW, why I try to run that CTWL the way I do, because I want to give it competition. If we bring competition, the best wifflers, the best community, the best general overall environment will come out of it. When done healthily, obviously. I'm not trying to do it to kill each other or anything. I'm not doing it out of rivalry. I'm doing it because we need more voices, more sources. Like, I think that's the big reason why Unite Wiffle was so successful the last couple of years. We had multiple pieces from all over the country contributing to what the sport wants to be. And look what it's done. 40 plus record attendance at these tournaments, grand appeal, apart from 2021 for the formatting reasons, whole other thing. But apart from that, so that small glitch, we are in the probably the brightest time this wiffle community has seen in 20 years since before the depression in 2008. Like maybe it's still not as good as the early and mid 2000s era, like golden era fast plastic, the original, but it's still really good. And again, as I've been saying time and time again, why I feel the way I do, we need more of that. We need more players. We need to get those kids into tournaments. And personally, it can feel kind of daunting, at least from my perspective, when you throw them in the den and you throw them in these Maw tournaments, kind of like what RB Rebs are doing right now in Maw right now, playing those tournaments and playing all the competition straight up. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And you play those tournaments, you get your arse kicked to you. You get Mercy Rule in 3 games. And it's like, I spent all this money, drove 4 hours for what? Why on earth would I do that again? So that's kind of my rant on the whole thing, trying to give those kids an avenue. But if it's not there, then I mean, there's no real point trying to kick a dead horse, forever. So I mean, unfortunately for us, we try to pick up the pieces and move on. But it's a sad day in CT West. It's been a sad moment. Trying to do whatever we can to even salvage stuff. And I mean, I stay as a commissioner, and still the organization hasn't died. Don't get me wrong, the organization has not died. We're still kind of like this loose governing body with the backyard leagues doing like rankings and reviews, like we'll talk later in the show. But playing wise, I think we need to regroup, readjust, do what we have to do. But for the moment, it just doesn't seem like bringing the fast pitch stuff is going to be the way it goes, at least with the current audience that's out there. So unfortunately, that's just kind of like the state we're in. That's kind of what we're doing. But I'm trying to think of anything else really to just bring on that. I mean, guys, if you guys have anything you guys want to chip in a little bit here as we're
I
kind of
definitely want to chip into this.
please go on,
What
because
I
I
really
mean,
want to talk
especially
about.
Ethan. Before I let you have the floor for a second. I mean, you've had a lot of experience doing this stuff. Since the ages you were 12, 13 years old, going to Golden Stick events, going to nationals, doing all the stuff. You've been around the sport for a stupid long time, even longer, significantly longer than we have. And sometimes I even feel like I've been a little bit, but I mean, when you've seen so many leagues, so many perspectives, you've played, you've watched, you've been involved like so many roles. I mean, take it away. I mean, where in your experiences that lie, I guess, with the situation, if you have anything to say on it.
So what I really want to talk about here is kind of what you said about MLW, how like um how it might fall, like Fast Plastic has twice, how Golden State kind of has
Oh shoot.
in certain regions, um and even some other leagues like I don't know, Palisades. MLW is a successful business model. It is not just a league. It is a business model. It's going to keep on it's going to keep on growing. And it's not something that's like this is like running MLW for Kyle Schultz. That's a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
That's his job. So when MLW goes away, that's a business going bankrupt, really. Do you see that happening? Like, in my opinion, I don't see it at all. The pace that's um the pace that the MLW is on, what they're doing, how they're involving the rest of the wiffle ball community, and most importantly, growing it is not only vital to the sport, it's vital to their business, and that's why I don't see it going away.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, like you look at all these leagues and new leagues and a lot of young talent, a lot of the inspiration was MLW.
Right.
Um, so so you have to think that's probably going to continue
Mm-hmm.
because MLW just has a huge influence on what the wiffle ball community is, what it's going to be, and yeah.
I
Here,
feel that.
here's the thing that concerns me with MLW, though. Like Ben had mentioned, they are almost going on what you said, 15 years,
Could be very soon. I think 2024
and
is gonna be their 15th season, and then
and in
2025 will be
their
15-year anniversary.
and in their case, age is not just a number. They've been the focal point of MLW for the longest time, like since the start. But here's my question to you, Ethan. At which point do you think Kyle and the rest of the guys, at which point do you think they decide, hey, I'm not going to keep playing uh, and I'm going to kind of transition essentially like Kyle obviously I would think Kyle would probably stay at the helm, but he would transition like I don't know, like the head
To
active
like an
guy,
owner
I
role,
guess you could say.
like a fully CEO kind of role, like
Yeah,
fully
exactly.
just executive only kind of thing. Yeah,
Exactly.
I see that.
Who at what point do you think that happens? Because it's coming up pretty quickly, I think, considering one, how long they've been around, and two, the point that they're just at this point they're getting older. I don't know how much longer it's going to last.
Well, so here's the thing, like MLW is a competitive league, so if Kyle is able to be competitive in that league, he's going to keep on playing. If if there's a point that every single guy on a roster is more valuable than Kyle, Kyle's not going to be playing in that league. It's just going to be what's best for the league. It's the decision that I think Kyle's going to make. Now, when is that going to happen? Like, I don't think anytime soon,
Okay.
because when you look at wiffle ball, at least from a point of where I've seen it from United Wiffle and Golden Stick, even Golden Stick Yard, because that's kind of similar too. Um, MLW in a way, you see that experience rises to the top,
Right.
and Kyle Schultz, he's experienced. He's going to be number one in his own league. He's going to be one of the most experienced guys in the entire league. So definitely, at least from a hitting standpoint, you know, he's he's going to continue to see the ball well in his format
Hmm.
and be able to produce. You look at guys like Jay Ventresca have been um playing forever, and they're one of the best hitters just because they've been playing forever.
Hmm.
Even Kenny Rogers Jr. He's been playing since he was a very, very young kid and seeing like good pitching. So he's seen that format so much that he's able to um be atop his game. Um Even guys like Dan Potter who have been playing forever. Like that's why Dan Potter's good because he's been playing for so long. Um Now if that happens, I don't see any way MLW would possibly decline because Kyle Schultz is not in the league.
Yeah,
They're
I feel the
Right.
same
That,
way to that.
that what my point to you is this. I don't think that Kyle is ever going to decline. I think what I'm trying to get at is, like I said, age for them is not just a number. They're getting older. They're getting close to that point where not not everyone's going to be still in Michigan anymore. Like, do
Yeah,
you think?
I just want to kind of come in on that for a second. I know where you're going with that. Isn't that why the MLW draft exists? If we're going down this rabbit hole, like they've been drafting all these kids from Livonia
Right.
and Trenton and all these guys they've had for a couple of years. They have the tournament circuits. They're getting kids from like Ohio. They got Jordan Robles, who's flying in from New York multiple times a year to play these
Right.
tournaments. They literally have wiffle ball by the big kahunas itself. They have it right where they want it. They have I think you could almost say it. MLW has monopolized the sport of wiffle ball in the current landscape as it is. They have full control. They're like the NFL is when it comes to professional sports. They can literally do and make and see whatever they want and do it. They have the
And
budget, they have the personnel, they have the connections, the reach, the just they are the face of wiffle ball for better, for all the right reasons.
And
They have control.
here's my point to build upon that though. If they're able to keep doing that for a long time, perfect. And I know obviously we've seen a bunch of players that have been like previously drafted obviously have to leave the league. But say for example this, you have a guy like Tommy Coughlin. He say he moves to a completely different state next year or like within the next five
Yeah, but
years
that's not going to
and starts
happen. Tommy Coughlin is second in command. Why on earth? He's also, I assume, probably part of the financial part, getting paid to run this. He runs the TikTok, the Instagram, the everything. He's not leaving. He's like Kyle.
in theory
Those two are
in
glued to this.
in
That's
theory say
exactly
that
my
happens.
point. That's exactly my point. You wouldn't do that because that's leaving his business.
Exactly. And but
Um,
I do want to make a
Sure.
point though, and I still kind of round this out to kind of round this argument a little bit. MLW is this crown. They are the crown jewel football. Oh shoot. They've been the crown jewel for like the last 5, 7, 10 years. They've really, especially the last 5 years with COVID, they've really become the face of it. There's got to be a point, right, where they have to peak off. Like this constant growth can't just keep going on forever unless they make a monumental, fundamental change in what they are. Because there's still a league and the tournament circuits. Like if they all become full on professional, like the full on nationwide professional football league for everybody, right? For everybody, there's going to be a limit to how much they can do, how much they can reach, how much they can expand stuff. Because I mean, there's also range in the markets with the way things are. Wood football's not going to be the hot stuff forever. It's not going to have the COVID buzz forever. It's you kind of already see that right now with some of leagues and keep aging and just moving on. It's going to go in and out. It will have its phases. So MLW's got to have its own at some point. And when that happens, when they don't have they have the polls at tournaments someday, and who knows if they ever do, it's probably realistic to think that they may never, at least in the short term future. But at some point, who else is there in the Wiffs community that's going to pick up the pieces from MLW? Or are we just going to have to go through in our dark age of 3, 5, 7, 10 years to then rebuild this entire sport from the ground up? It's been the thing that's hurt the sport so many times, and why I did CDWL in the first place. Again, I bring that up once more time because you want to build the groundwork for something long term into the future that's not tied to a person but tied to the sport, like college sports, high school, college, like the pros. It's just a ladder. It's just the way we do things. It's not a time period. It's not time specific. It's just what we do. So that's kind of my argument. MLW is gonna peak, and then what? What are we gonna do? Because I feel like the rest of the community, like Maw is great, but still doesn't have the appeal that MLW does. Nor especially does ECW. If we're being brutally honest about the conversation, PLW, they're getting there, especially when they get this new live stream equipment. I have high hopes for PLW. I really hope they do well because I think what they're doing is awesome. AWA is doing another phenomenal job. But when it comes to fast pitch, all we really have, heck, we don't really have anything outside the MLW tournaments and UFs. We don't have anything. It's all MLW. So from a fast pitch perspective, you kind of have to be a bit worried about where the game's going to go. It's great right now, but long term wise, I feel like we're still kind of riding on a high, which could crash at any moment. It could. 40 a lot of the players who've been playing were like guys in the mid 2010s from Palisades era who are going to age out of the sport in this decade. Some of them maybe last on. You have a couple career long guys, but it's going to hit a point. And then what? Who is the next generation? These MLW kids? Is that all we're relying on? Because they're also not the entire reachable outcome for the sport. So,
yes,
you know,
I'd say yes. Who says it's gonna be anyone else besides the MLW kids?
mhm.
Because that's the future of our sport. That's what inspired all these new young
They
kids
did
to
absolutely.
get into wiffle ball.
Mhm.
So and say MLW does, peak and then drop off. One that's gonna be a long time from now.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's
And
still at least a good
Right.
couple of years till that we hit that point.
Let me ask you this
like
question real quick.
no, but no, you're a long time, like 10, 15 years. And
No,
then you're
no
saying,
way.
No,
They go that
I
who's
think
long.
it's
who's
That's
gonna
a
I think
pick
it's
that's a
way
that
long
up?
more.
time. That's a long time, Ethan. With the way like with
What
the way
I'm
social
thinking,
media works.
think about it this way. You have another 5 years. You got Kyle, you got Dan, you got um like basically all the guys that were there from the start. you got all of them basically turning like 27, 28, and if
But
according to
again,
what
that's their job. They're not
right,
leaving it.
I
So
get that. I get that's their job.
the players is a different.
Do
It's a
you
different conversation. It's a different
you
market. They don't get the same financial compensation as the other play as
according
the
to
other
what
guys do.
Ethan is saying, obviously, if Kyle, if Dan, if Tommy, if they're all able to like continue playing up to that top level, at the same time they're going to be like 27, 28-year-old guys playing against like kids that they had drafted that are like 17, 18 years old. So think about it that way. That's another way of
It's
thinking
like
about
Major
it.
League Baseball. Who cares? We got Jason or Jason. I can't remember. That's the poor kid in my farm system. Jason Dominguez
One.
playing against like R.I. Dickey for crying out loud. We have 20-year-olds play 40-year-olds
Right.
all the
But
time. Who the
I
hell
don't know.
cares at that point? Who the hell
I don't
cares?
know. I
I'm
mean,
My
I think you're
point
talking.
about Jay Ventresca.
I mean, honestly, Jay Francesca is like the Bartolo Colon of wiffle ball in my eyes. He's literally
right.
been. He's like father. He's other with Dave Cap as well. Just a number of names who've been on the circuit for God knows how
Exactly.
long.
I'm
And
just
father times of
unsure
our
if that's
sport.
what they would wind up doing. I don't know.
It's
It's
gonna
just
happen.
a
It's gonna
bunch of
happen.
unknowns. I don't
But
know.
I mean, it's an unknown, and I mean that's kind of like again why this whole thing started. There's an unknown in wiffle ball. There's a market that needs to be seized, in my opinion, because MLW, unless they want to get to every region, which still won't happen for I think a couple of years, to the point where they get enough financially stable enough where they could really take a truly chain corporate mindset on the whole thing of national wiffle ball as we know it. There's still market that needs to be seized. There's still players which are going to go under the radar, which may not go to the tournaments. There are players that need to be served that can just make the sport better, more competitive, more exciting, more viewpoints, more everything. And if we can get them, great. But at least from our neck of the woods, as I often use that term, neck of the woods, for our area, it's just not happening right now, and it seems frustrating because if not now, when? If not, if peaks right now, then what? I mean, it's a pessimistic look to have on it, but you always have to wonder. You always have to fear. The 2010 sucked. Are we going to go through that again? Only time will tell. But I mean, it's a discussion we could have all day and all night, but we got more things to cover about on this podcast. Just like the big news from 2022, that being
Listen,
the
I want to make one more point.
one more point. We got to go to break because we are literally probably outspoken ourselves on this.
If when and if something happens to MLW, the next thing to take this place may not even be a thing yet, but it's going to
That's
be
valid.
something that's probably inspired from MLW that will grow to be maybe bigger than MLW. And yeah, I don't think we're gonna go back to something like the 2010s if we have something bigger than MLW.
Yeah, we have to wait and see.
My
But
point.
we have some things to talk about later in this podcast, including the big news from 2022, that being the drop top 100 top fast match players all over the place. We got some great things to talk about that, and we'll go right after this break. This is the Scuffin It Up podcast with Ben, Connor, and Ethan. Stay tuned, folks. And welcome back, Wiffling fans. Welcome back into this episode of the Scuffin It Up podcast, our first episode of the second season. As always, I'm Ben Fiore, joined by the great co-hosts in the Wiffling world, Connor DeCasta in the Caddy Shack, and Ethan Weiner in his mobile nuclear bunker. Great to have you back with the show as we have that great conversation over the future whiffs and me ranting about my Wiffle League, which sadly dying like all things in life, we all see all things end at some point. Getting it back to the show. If you have liked what you have seen so far and you want to catch up to date with everything that is going on, make sure to follow us across social media. That is at Scuffin It Up. That's at SCUFFINITUP. And again, you can find all of that great stuff on Instagram, Facebook, or not at Facebook. We don't have a Facebook. God, but what are you saying? Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Where for season 2, we will be doing video versions of podcasts, just like this one you might be watching if you are already found it on YouTube. You can find all the stuff on our YouTube channel. All the episodes are available there. And if you aren't watching the video versions, you can also get the old school audio versions that we've done in previous seasons. You can check those out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and basically anywhere you have an internet connection that isn't dial up from 1998. Again, go give it a listen, give us a good rating, subscribe to the channel, give it hashtag Connor 5 stars if you're listening to this. Get into the algorithm so we can get more Wiffle and sporting people up to speed on the greatest thing to happen in Wiffle since the cup ball was invented. But as we go through all this show stuff, and oh yeah, check out the sign. In case you ever forget where it is, we got the new sign for the season in my room. It's over there. You probably will read it at some point. You know what it reads, at Scuffin It Up. Check it out over there. Go check all the socials. Check it out. It's great stuff. Great content. Come on, let's go. Either way, though, as I'll try to switch this back on over. Oh, shoot. Wrong button. All right. Now, as we're back up to Scuff here, almost like our title, Scuffing It Up. We mentioned that for this next segment, we're going to be talking about the best thing that happened in the Wiffs. It's been long overdue. Ethan, I know as a fast pitch player, this is something that we've been waiting for a long time, especially for 2021, where it's just suddenly decided to, not exist for some reasons or another, which we won't discuss for our own sake. But we will discuss is the fact that it's back for 2022. Of course, we are talking about the Drop Top 100. For those who are not up to Wiffle savvy or are aware of what this list is and why it's so important, basically the Drop 100 is the list which comes out at the end of the year, or I guess in the early preseason for the following season, as it was for this year. This list is the top 100 players in fast pitch wiffle ball in tournament circuits and leagues across the country. So it's not regionally exclusive like things we do for like the CT Wiffs review and all that stuff. This is national. This is basically who of all the players who are semi-constant factors playing in leagues and stuff all over the place. Who are the better players to watch out for? Who are the players that are coming up in the scene? And ultimately, who is the best player when it comes to fast pitch on this beautiful blue and green rock we call planet Earth. This list was probably the list we've been waiting for a long time for after the cancellation. So there's been a number of cool things to talk about. I definitely wanted to spend a couple of minutes here and just discuss general opinions about players we thought could have been higher, could have been lower. Some players who maybe got on the list, maybe missed it, or even just talk about just how the Jap 100 is generally as a list right now in its current state. But I wanted to go ahead and start things off with, as we were kind of alluding to earlier, our good friend who formerly is in the now deceased it was in the deceased CTWL, our good mate Zach Cifarelli, becoming the first, I guess, new Connecticut player to make the list, not named T-Way or Norris or all the old names you probably already know if you are in the fast pitch scene with some knowledge. Zach Cifarelli made the list this year. Give him a round of applause. Our former Madison Riser, CTWL and ECW experience bound, made it onto the list at number 96 into the rankings. They gave a little description on him. They said that the 2021 Connecticut Football League Rookie of the Year had a nice debut season in ECW in 2022, given that's where the team played after they weren't able to commit to play with us in CTWL for 2022. In that expanded rookie season, when he played a couple of tournaments, he was able to pitch to a 3.17 ERA per 5 in 29 innings pitched, as well as belting a handful of home runs. Definitely, I think more than probably we expected, considering that most people probably don't even care what CT Wiffs right now was and what it was for the first couple of years we had it. So to see a player make it through, and I guess with the kind of the vision I had to see some players possibly go pro and make a name for themselves, we even knew when we saw him play in 2021 that this kid had some talent. Even never played in the league, he's got some stuff to offer on the fast pitch scene. So to see him get the recognition, question if he deserves it or not. Some may argue maybe so, maybe not. But to see it on there, get some new faces on there, as there are plenty of new faces on the list. We'll talk about in a second. Just to see Zach on there was awesome. And I know Connor, when we saw him, the first thing I did was DM you and be like, if nothing else happens in my life, I'm happy Zach Cifarelli has made the top 100. That is like a proud father-son moment, I guess, when it comes to Wiffling stuff. So, I mean, Connor, you saw the reaction. Did you honestly think it was real when you internalized it? I guess you could put it that way.
No, to be honest. No, because obviously you know full well that, I mean, when we first saw him, or at least when I first
May
saw him,
2021
definitely
now.
when I first saw him,
Oh,
I was
yeah,
like,
years ago, when you guys were we
yeah,
lads, yeah.
when I first saw him, at least playing wiffle ball, I guess you could say when I first saw him playing years ago, playing baseball, um, that was actually my first. I believe it was my first actual kid pitch experience was on a team that had him. I was playing as a 7-year-old on an 8-year-old team, and I was playing on his team. And as time progressed, Zach in Little League, he was a kid who was always like we knew him and Matt. They were both always on the same team, and they were always
Oh, I cut off there for a second. I guess he was too excited to tell everybody that Zach. Maybe who knows? Maybe Zach's walking in through his blurry background. I don't know. We'll have to see. Wait and see. Connor, can you still hear me there, bud? All right. All right. Well, I'll have to devil off that
So
point for a sec. But I guess even if you want to go ahead and just take the floor here and chime in for
when
a
I
second,
first saw Zach play, I mean, it's really no surprise to me that he was on the drop 100. Kid's disgusting. I mean, you look at how hard he throws, and he's not a bad bat. Um, his stuff is just really, really good. It's top notch.
Yeah, it
Um,
really is elite stuff. Yeah.
and he can hold, the top teams in ECW. And I know he'd be an excellent in a mod or UWIF. I tried to get him for UWIFs.
Oh, you did? You tried to get him to play?
Yes, I did try to get him for UWIFs. Unfortunately, that didn't work out.
Zach, my guy, are you kidding me? You didn't go to UFs, my guy. Oh, that's an L.
Um,
I bet you if he went, he probably went higher up the list.
you know,
so sorry.
but
You
it's
can
it's
go ahead if you want.
Go ahead, E.
Yeah.
it's really no surprise that he's on the drop 100. It was more of a surprise when I was on the drop 100. I
Wait,
was like, oh, what the hell am I doing here?
wait. I
I
mean,
did,
I'm sorry not to be rude,
I
but
did
you
terrible.
were on the list. I remember seeing
I
your name on
I
the list.
the list. I think I was like 93. I don't even know.
93. Oh,
All
oh my God! Round of applause. We have a drop
I
100 member on the podcast, Ethan Weiner, 93. Please forgive me, Ethan. I should have known that before I got on the show.
saw
You're on
my
there,
name
but
on the podcast. I was like, why am I here? I definitely didn't have like a top 100 year. It was now yeah, I had a decent year at the plate, but like I didn't really pitch at all.
yeah, a lot of the guys on the list were a lot of two-way guys. I mean, guys like Zach, a number of the young guys even got in there, which I want to talk about in a second. A number of young guys from the U17s made it. I mean, so a lot of the guys on the list were a bunch of two-way guys. Very few pure hitters made this year's list, and I think that's kind of like speaking to where the game is right now, fast pitch wise. Where to be a real threat, you got to be able to do it on both sides of the ball. You have to be a unicorn, Otani kind of player. To get your name out there for the most part, unless you really are
Right.
that good of a hitter or that good of a pitcher, which you don't
And
see as often in the game.
Ben, my apologies for obviously having the cut off a little bit early on my
No, it's fine.
statement.
You're
It was
worried about getting your happy meal. That's fine. No worries.
exactly precisely. No, I'm kidding.
I know exactly.
Um,
Anywho,
but as I was saying, he was always I always remembered him in Little League being a kid who was him and his brother because they were always on the same team. But they were always kids who I remembered being like really fast and kids who could like really make pretty good. They always made contact on the ball. To be honest, their
oh come on,
dad.
don't do them like that. Come on, you're talking like these kids came from absolutely nothing. Like they came from the streets. Come on now.
No, I'm not saying that at all. But to be honest, they were especially Matt. I remember Matt was one who. I mean, sorry, Matt, if you're listening to this, but you were a kid who was always like I knew you to be a fast kid, and you're a kid who always played that to your advantage. You would always bunt. But regardless, Zach Zach was a kid who like had a little bit more pop in his bat, and but I mean that's to be
At the
honest.
wee age of 7, Zach's as good as a silver
No,
slugger.
this was in Little League. This was in Little League at this
Oh,
point.
was it Lily? I thought you were talking when
But
they
still,
were still
still,
younger.
still. Um, anyway, at that point they were yeah. Zach had a little bit more pop in his bat. He was never really a kid who could like hit dingers for days. But yeah, and I don't remember him ever pitching in the league. he would never pitch in the league.
Which makes no sense because the kid never played. He literally was in the backyard. I guess I call it it's almost like a laboratory. I guess we could call it now. He was so damn scientific with it. The kid
here's
should
the
have
thing about Zach.
go ahead.
Zach was a catcher.
Wait, what?
He was a catcher in the league.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Those two.
Yeah.
Damn.
And, I mean, at the end of the day, it kind of makes sense because you have to have a good arm to be a catcher too. But like, yeah, he was never a pitcher.
Damn,
Never.
look where he is now. Remember he told us he's been practicing for like 4 or 5 years in his backyard, and here he is with
And
a
I
ninth
would
ball
have
straight
never
out
known
of wiffle ball 28.
Never have known that.
And from that, he's become a top 100 player in less than 2 years. And some may argue, I know Ethan, you talked before the show, you mentioned about this. He could probably be higher on the list. Like, I mean, how far do you honestly see him going up the list in terms of what you think? I mean, you have to factor in some stats, but talent-wise, with some stats, how do you think he really fares in terms of where he is in terms of the big names and whips people should look out for?
I mean, I think it depends on how much he plays.
If he plays a full season, let's say he plays like he does this year, like 3/4, very close to a full year
of ECW.
And let's say he does dabble himself at UF, or maybe not. You could vary a little bit, but
I will say, we'll say 6 or 7 tournaments, one MAW, one UF, rest ECW.
Yeah, about that.
You could see him up there.
Top 50, top 30.
Dak is no one's seen him outside of the Northeast. He throws 85. He's got a disgusting screwball, and he has other pitches.
Stupid. I can't believe it, but
so when you look at a guy like Zach, like he's gonna he throws strikes, and he throws hard strikes with a lot of movement. So he's gonna have a lot of success against top teams, because like a lot of these top teams in the nation have never seen Zach. So if Zach goes
and there's no film on him online either, which helps.
Who's to say that he can't sneak a win against like a Phenoms or
that far?
Like that's how good Zach is. Just because no one's seen him. I mean, look at what CCW did against the Jugs through a perfect game.
Yeah.
The Jugs just aren't seeing that guy, and when you got someone throwing 100 miles an hour with movement, you can have success. So I could really see Zach with a good full season, really making a big jump on the drop 100.
Wow, big remarks from the big man, Ethan Weiner. You've seen him a couple of times playing in the tournaments again, like you mentioned.
I should not be on the drop 100 this year. I'm fat, shape, and I'm and unlike what Zach is probably gonna hopefully do, which is play a lot of whiff, that won't be the case for me.
Hey, listen. If nothing else, you got the home here on the Scuffin It Up podcast. So I mean, you got that working for you.
I'm just not. I'm not gonna play more than. I'm not gonna play more fast pitch than Matty Griffin would.
Listen, nobody's playing more fastest whiff than Matty Griffin is. Honestly, that man is again like an ocarina of time. Like you can't break that man.
He's played a lot back in the day.
Oh yeah, a lot of olds, like the primated whips, a lot of stuff. But I mean, to see him up that list, do you think top 50 is possible? Top 30? I don't know if a top 30 is a stretch, but you thinking that?
Let's see him in the top 50.
I feel like top 50 is a reasonable jump, and anything beyond that, he'd really have to get him out there.
Plays.
Yeah.
And how good does his bat get too? Like this, he's now got his first full season of fast pitch whiff under his belt. Like with some really good competition, seeing guys that throw hard, seeing guys that are veterans like him.
That's I guess even just to bring out that point, because even when you play him in CPWL, he was at least in my opinion a bat that's really hot or really cold. Like when he started the season, Connor, he was hitting like 400, 500 average, hitting the crap out of the ball. Took me deep a couple of times. I mean, I threw him a couple of cookies, but I mean, he didn't miss it when I did throw it. But I mean, it was a really good bat. I mean, you saw the pop. Like this kid's going up there to really do some damage. But then the last month of the season, he hit like 1 or 200 in the championship series. Mind you, he was injured. He was almost non-existent in the lineup apart from a home run in Game 5.
Ba-
So
Basically, here's what I think. It was basically from that like All-Star break onwards that he was like really, really cold.
really, like the Derby killed him. Like he was like almost like a major league player. Like the Derby just absolutely took the wind and sail out of him completely. So I
To
mean,
be fair, he did hit a home run lefty to beat me
yeah,
in the derby,
he did.
which hurt my ego
He
a
did. I
lot.
mean, listen, you're not the only one got disrespected throughout the season. So trust me, trust me, you're far
Oh,
from
I'm
the
fully
exception on that
aware.
one. But I mean, listen, the kid's
I
an
still
animal.
definitely, I
Go
still
ahead.
definitely do remember getting the first, and I'm pretty sure what was it the only hit that
I think
he
too,
allowed
because I
all
think
season?
Zach got. I know that Zach.
Ryan,
Not
right?
Ryan Moot was the other, and technically, I think I should have had the other one. They made me score,
But
change
it
one
was
of
an
the hits
error.
for
I'm
an
pretty
error,
sure it was
which
right. Yeah,
I mean, if you're calling it, is a bunch of horse crap. If you ask me personally, on the player level, as a commish, I could argue it, but I think considering how hard he is to hit, I mean, give me the hit seriously. What's 3 hits on a season? Seriously, for 25, 30 innings, bitch. I'm like, come on now,
yeah,
seriously. Um, but yeah, I think the kid. I think if he comes up the list, he's going to be really damn good. I
he
think
has
if he gets the
high
ball in
potential.
UFs, I think it's only a matter of time till the world understands the beauty that is the gorgeous Zach Siff, the pride of Madison, Connecticut with football, Zach Siffarelli.
Whoa,
Players,
whoa, 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 whoa.
Connor, it's not you or Liam flying. I'm
Fair
sorry.
enough. Fair enough.
I'm sorry. Liam might be done at this point. At this rate, Liam might be stepping on a football field for the rest of his life in a competitive sense. So I mean, tough to argue that one. As for yourself, who knows? If I can't
Eh,
do it, you can't do it. I
we'll see.
mean, if you could throw strikes, you could become like the next what's the underhand pitcher in Major League Baseball that gets talked about? It was with the Yankees last year. Shit.
Darren O'Day.
Darren O'Day. Yeah, you become like the next flame throwing Darren O'Day with a ball, honestly. You become genius. But gotta hit the pens. Gotta see the commitment, honestly. Gotta be sick.
I'm pretty sure Darren O'Day actually just retired.
Shout out Darren O'Day if that's
Pretty
the
sure.
case. Absolute legend. Absolute money ball legend on that one. But sidetracking. Other players I want to talk about on the list is the long list or longer list I think anyone expected of young players from the U17 tournament, which it kind of confused me how these players got on the list. They're under 17. There's no way this many under 17 players. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful by any means. I'm not saying these kids aren't good, but there's no way these kids at under 17 are willing to take the spots of other players who've been playing for a long time and played in like the big circuits. For realistically, you judge them off of one tournament with a reduced pitching distance, 42 to 48 feet. We're talking fast pitch, 6 feet in, and no speed restrictions, and the big barrel bats. I just don't think that. I mean, again, I'm not saying these players are bad, and I'm saying they're talented. They, as we saw, if you watch the video from MLW and UFs and all the media, they throw gas, and there's certainly some players you should keep your eye on, likes of RJ Walgate, who led Ohio Elite to the U17 national championship. Himself at number 84. We saw, if I'm seeing that number right, shoot, who's that other player? Shoot, I'm drawing the blank on it for a second.
Oh,
Shit,
Dallas.
man. I mean, Dallas Allen. I can't forget Dallas Allen. Where was Dallas was high in the list this year? It was like 60 something, 50 something. I'm scrolling through. I'm trying to remember where he was. He was high. He was higher than I expected for a second. But up there in the top parts. And I mean, yeah, Dallas Allen at 82, RJ Walgate at 84. Sawyer Bean made the list, and I think probably Sawyer Bean's one of the younger guys. I think I personally more respect to be on the list. I think should be higher considering he played Kalamazoo Wiffs, another great fast pitch league in the Northeast, not the Northeast, in the Midwest. Got his experience there, and then played with you, Ethan, and pitched. I'm going to assume halfway East West for a first time fast pitch guy at UFs. So I mean, he has, I guess, from a portfolio perspective, I think he's accomplished more than some of the other guys in the list compared to like a one tournament. But, and I get, and I know the Cooks expressed this when they made the list and they did all the media and stuff. They're trying to promote the younger guys to get them, I guess, encourage them to keep playing all this stuff. But where's the respect on the older guys and kind of in that kind of vein and stuff when you put these guys on the list? They've played for one tournament. They haven't come. Most of these guys haven't come to ECW or Mall and played the big guys yet, or played improper UFs in the World Championship yet. So, I mean, sure, great, they're beating other talent, but the jump up to the next level when they see the bigger distance and all that stuff, and just the maturity in the next level, I don't know if you put maybe 5 or 6 of the guys of the 5 or 6. I'm not sure that every single one of them deserves to be on the list. If at least if you ask me, and I mean, Ethan, I don't know if you feel the same way, considering that you actually were at US playing with B, as I mentioned, with Blast of the Past in last October. But I mean, I feel like they kind of, in my opinion, oversaturated the list with the number of guys they put for under 17s. I don't know. It feels kind of weird.
Well, I think if it was oversaturated, like say you were to tell Paul Cook, who does the list, like, hey, you oversaturated the list with too much young talent. Like he's not even gonna be mad at you because part of the reason why he does that list is he wants to like show the wiffle ball world like who these guys are.
Mm-hmm.
So by putting guys like RJ Walgate on the list, like it's he's growing the game.
Right.
But at the same time, like I don't disagree with the placements because these guys they had good seasons. At the end of the day, they had good fast pitch seasons. And yes, while like, you know, as a very easy example, the large adult UWIF was more competitive than the youth UWIF, however you want to say it or
Yeah.
whatever. You know, like obviously there's better competition. Some of those guys in the youth tournament were filthy,
I mean, Trey. I mean,
and I know
was Treyfoot on this list this year? I don't think he made the list. But Trey, I mean, the MLW team was, I mean, they only finished like third or fourth, but they were stacked. I remember watching like Trey and Dallas throw with the radar gun. They're throwing like what, 89, 91, 92. They're like 16, 17 years old. I'm like, are you kidding me? And it's 42 feet, so it's even faster than traditional fast pitch. I'm like, it's not even fair. It's not even fair.
those mounds were actually misplaced, and I think they're like 2 feet up from what they should have been.
Oh, so they're like
So
40? Even worse.
I'm pretty sure it was like 40.
Oh my God, that's not even fair at that point. Like, I love fast pitch, but that's just ridiculous.
Whatever it was advertised as, it was actually like 2 or 3 feet close. So
Oh my gosh. You've got to be
so
kidding me.
so on top of like all these guys just throwing like gas, they're right on top of you.
Right on, it means
But
the
they're
fast pitch is
still
how it is
throwing
to
harder
begin
than
with.
me.
Yeah.
I threw 65 at UF. Just really embarrassing.
I mean,
I
listen, I don't
used
throw much harder, so I mean, right along, you saw the 70 poo gang. Gotta love it.
I mean, if I get my left arm healing, I could probably. I think there was a point that I could throw faster lefty than I threw fucking righty at you with.
But yeah,
These guys
go
are
ahead.
good. These guys had good fast pitch seasons, which is what the drop 100 is about.
Yeah,
So you can't.
are they seasons though? They only had MLW and they played maybe one, maybe two tournaments. Is that
But yeah,
enough to quantify it, considering the skill level at that point?
at that point, yeah, because that's what Paul made the requirements for the list to
I mean,
be.
yeah, that's a fair point. That is a
Yeah,
fair point.
that's. I think that answer is that simple.
Yeah, it definitely is that simple. I just feel like just like when you weigh apples to apples, it doesn't seem as even, especially when they're pitching from 40 feet. Does that tournament play out the same way if they back the mounds up another, even at least to the mark in the distance of 42 feet, and then even really to 48 feet? Which, if you ask me, if the kids are going to throw this hard, they should have to also pitch at 48, at least 45 feet. If they're going to throw 90 poo, if we're going to see kids that are near fast pitch velocity, even at the young ages, like I think it's fair. If you're going to give them the bats and everything, like that's a whole other discussion for another day. That really scratched my head, but I just feel like the MLW tournaments, like I'll be honest, I kind of sleep on them because I feel like they're more, they're like the youth divisions. I think going forward are going to be hyper competitive, knowing that your ticket to nationals and to worlds is going to be through these tournaments. But I think in the past you don't get, I guess, the quality like you do, I guess, at the U17 nationals. You don't get the quality of the final tournaments, so it kind of feels a little bit weird in some sense in that regard. But I mean, I don't think the kids are bad. I mean, they showed it throughout the weekend, and I fully give credit to all the top teams. And I think like VWL Flamingos, RW Rabs, MLW Rising Stars. There's so many good teams in that pool, and I think a lot of them are going to come up very shortly. I just think that maybe you don't need to have as many of them in the top 100. Like if you want to make a separate list or you want to give them honorable mentions, I am 100% okay with that. But there's got to be more adult guys who could probably compose the top 100 who meet the qualifications. Like there's got to be. Like it feels weird. Like they feel like kind of fillers in a sense to the list. But then again, I what do I know? I haven't played wiffle ball in 18 months physically, so what the hell do I know when it comes to that stuff? But still, I want to give. I would definitely want to at least express that opinion personally of mine. When it comes to at least that part of that lower part of the list. A couple of guys that surprised me. Whiffman, Rob Pirvananzi was only 76 on the list. I'm personally one of the best whiffling hitters of our generation. Only 76. I mean, I know we only played a really part-time schedule, but it's feel weird to have a player of his talent, his caliber that low on the list. Let me see other names that came to mind. I mean, our great mate Dougie Baker, Dougie Bakes. Shout out to Dougie, number 66. If
Much
what?
Dougie Baker should have been much higher.
I'm surprised. I was looking at the stats. I'm like, he should have been a little bit higher. I think definitely into like
That
the top,
was a
right around the
little
50.
that now like obviously that list isn't going to be perfect and
No,
because it's a list. It's one guy doing a list of 100 people for a whole season
with different
for
formats, different styles, all that stuff. Yeah,
but
yeah,
he's gonna get a lot of things right because it's Paul Cook, but he's not gonna get everything right. And one of the things he did miss was Dougie Baker's placement.
yeah.
Should have been higher.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel he's a player that gets very much slept on in the mall. He's had a number of good performances over the last couple of years, and I mean the
I,
team at 66 is great,
but
but I
I'm
feel
not
like it could
sure
be
he's
better.
necessarily slept on anymore. I think people know he's coming up.
You think that seriously? Because I still don't feel like Dougie Baker's like a household name yet. I feel like he's still like in that mid tier of player. You know what I mean? I feel like he's not like the player you go up there like holy crap, it's Dougie Baker. Like I better pitch around carefully.
Nope, that's how I feel about Dougie. I don't want to pitch Dougie Baker.
Seriously,
I've told him
is
that
that
to my
is that because you want you can only throw 65? Is that the reasoning, or is it genuinely?
I mean, that's probably part of it. But I mean, if dude, I don't want to face Dougie Baker. I mean, he's seen me so many times. That's
Yeah.
partial. That's the big part of it. Um, but if I even then, like, you never know when Dougie's gonna get
Yeah,
it, get the job done.
yeah.
He's still a child, but at the end of the day, like,
He's still a child. I
he's
love
grown
that stuff.
so much. I remember when like Dougie Baker used to be when I used to be better than Dougie Baker because Dougie Baker was younger than me. And that's not the case anymore.
Mhm.
Dougie Baker is much better than me at wiffle ball.
Yeah,
And
but definitely a player. Definitely a player. Note that. I mean, shout out Dougie Bakes, a player that you always talk about a bunch. So great to have a discussion about him on the rankings. Other players on the list: MLW's own Kyle Schultz, number 61 on the list. Great to see MLW getting that far. And I mean, in terms of fast pitch, he had a decent UFC. I mean, he's always a good solid bat, as we talked about before. Always a really good, consistent veteran. I guess you could almost consider at this point with how much wiffle ball he's played in his heyday. But I think if he could pitch like he could in old school MLW, I feel like Kyle could really be in like the top 50. Like if his arm was really gassing it up a little bit. But he's part of the 70 poo crew. And I mean, without having really serious gas, and I think it's tough to really be really that elite arm and fast pitch, but still a great bat. I think still really well deserved to be on the list. No slouch in the MLW commission at 61. That much is for sure. Matty Griffin at 64. I think that number could be higher if I'm looking through this. I think that's a number that could get wavered a little bit. Jimmy Cole only at 56. If it was only fast pitch, I understand 56, but if you factor in Electric City, I feel like it would have to go higher on that
it's
one.
only
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. But I feel like Jimmy Cole like not the best. Like I also see this list. I'm also kind of thinking the top 100 players and whiffs all together, but it also is fast pitch, so you can't really factor in that Electric City run they had at the championship all that much, unfortunately. In other ways, he didn't really play as much fast pitch as he has in other years, especially without the lack of having the New York meets in action in Moss. So I mean, that's going to hurt a little bit. Other players, we go a little bit further unless we're going to skip a couple of names. Sam Skippy, always a really solid choice at 43. Got to give love to the Midwest guys as always. Danny Have, 603 member at number 46. A number that continues to make its way up the rise in terms of the Northeast scene. DNAP only at 49, of course, dealing with injuries. So, I mean, that's, I guess, a little bit to be expected. Not necessarily to the top player he was, I guess, in like the late 2010s per se of where he was in terms of eliteness without being at full health. I'm changing a couple numbers. We'll try to
No, but
skim
he's
it.
still just as good.
What?
Like the thing with DNAP, like he didn't like yeah, he's not maybe necessarily as athletic because of his knee injury, but he's still like
He
I
still
mean,
got it.
I think pitching wise, like he's better. And like maybe he's not throwing as hard, but he's more of a veteran, and he's not tipping as much. Um,
Mm.
DNAP, like I didn't face DNAP this year, and that's probably a good thing because I think this is like I feel bad for anyone that had to face like DNAP this year. He was like he was just as good as he was in other years, if not better.
Yeah.
Plus, like his presence in the box is just such is so feared because you never the thing with DNAP is like it's not like oh he gets on it and then he finally hits one out like he just kind of stands there he doesn't show any emotion he
He's almost
does
like it's almost like a samurai. Like you never know what's gonna happen. All of a sudden,
yeah
he just chops.
you can tell that he's like about to hit a home run and then he just nukes one
It's an absolute nuke,
it
honestly.
um it's really unfair like I like there's not a way to tell like oh like you make the change now
Mhm.
um with DNAP.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, these are the player. I mean, listen, that's the guy who won the 2012 national championship for Doom back in or 20 was it 2011 or 2012? Doom won. I'm
With
getting the games.
both
Well, I mean, which one was the year where the one was the walk off though? Was that 11 or 12? 11?
2011.
That's what I thought. Yeah, 2011. I mean, the guy who manufactured Doom's first win in 2011, a guy who took, remember the name with the number of home runs of Steffi in 2019, a guy who's done it for so many years and the name well revered. And every time I see him in the box, I'm like in the late games and watching like mall highlights from Benny Schaefer shutout Wiffle statement. Whenever I see him up in the box, you always got to wonder this guy's been done it multiple times. It's only a matter of time until he does it again. So a name, especially if he gets healthy again and if he's able to get more innings on the plate, innings from the flat hill, I should say. Then he gets together here. But I mean, if he gets the innings up, I think he's a name that should very well be back in the list and really revering the best players in whiffs. I mean, as he always has been, and really should be up the list with more time. Josh Pagano, 39, fellow Connecticutian himself. Big shout out to the Connecticut folks. Chase Oliver, a name. I mean, unfortunately, I can't talk much because I don't know much about Texas wiffle scene. But it's great to see the grand behind TC35 making it's the team that made. I think the furthest a Texas team has made it. I think in the history, the whole 30+ year history of the National World Championship Tournament lineage. Chase Oliver with a phenomenal year, won a number of games at UF. Really great to see Texas represented in a list, which really is so Northeast and Northeast, Mid Atlantic, and Midwest dominated in previous years, really especially in the Northeast Mid Atlantic scene that we've seen more traditionally when it comes to this style of fast pitch. I think I'll round up the list. Name, I guess, really that really catches my eye as I'm scrolling through this. This guy, I think we got to talk about it really quick. Another MLW guy, and I think a name I've really fallen in love with. A Coastal Cobra teammate of Connor's favorite player, Sawyer Bean. That being a member of the KWL Keggers at UF, the USA Wiffle Bars and MLW tournaments. Everybody knows his name by now. The greatest turnaround in MLW history in terms of pitching. Brendan Baranowski. I almost burst that pronunciation. Forgive me, Brendan, if you should ever listen to this. I apologize. Coming out of the list at number 12 on the rankings, 1.67 ERA and 36. I'm looking like an 8. 36 innings pitched at KWL. pitched a number of games with the Great Lakes Legion, a really solid team in Mall last year, really underrated, under the radar team, especially off the elite names. 1.51 ERA in the regular season of another 36 innings. Also played with KWL at the NWA tournament, played them at UWebs, pitched a number of games there. And I personally, I don't know if I put him at number 12, but I think it's fair to say Brendan Baranowski is a name that you definitely got to get well acquainted with. One of the most underrated players, I think, when it comes to fast pitch football, and a guy that almost like a soybean, but an older version of him, plays everywhere, and he's got the experience to really transcend his game. Personally, I think the bat's a little lacking, but in terms of pitching, there's no doubt he's getting up himself into the conversation of more young elite, great young elite arms when it comes to fast pitch. So I mean, a player that really sticks out to me when it comes to that. And personally, I really do like where Brendan's going. I mean, his MLW presence has gotten really big this past year. I mean, sure, he lost the MLW World Series. None of that factors into this list, but I mean, he's really played everywhere. He's who's mastering styles, all different types of formats, ball scuffs, you name it. And I think even with more time, he's going to get even better from where he is right now. If he took the jump so far from 2021 to 2022 by any stretch, it's only a matter of time till that really transcends his play. Vernon Baranowski at 12. I think we want to have a quick conversation. I know I've been in this list for a little bit. I mean, no surprise. The entire Jugs team's in the top 10. I think almost the entire Jugs team. Tim McElrath at 11. Chris Red Sarnowski at number 8. Ben Stanton number 3. Ryan McGill at number 1. I mean, minus DNAP and Ludwig, who, I mean, Ludwig wasn't with the team full time, especially for UWIF specifically. I mean, there's no surprise there. That team is literally a team of almost all Hall of Famers at this point in terms of the modern Wiffling generation. I think, Ethan, you wanted to just give a comment on the Jugs. I mean, everyone's comments on the Jugs at this point. They're seriously a team that's going to go on the Mount Rushmore of wiffle ball. Seriously. I mean, the
If
dominance they're on.
up more, he gets ranked higher.
I'm sorry, who did you make that comment about?
Ray Uddick.
He pitched some really good games in Moss. Seriously. I'm surprised I didn't see him that high.
You know that's the thing, though, right? He doesn't show up.
Yeah, I know. I've heard the story. I've heard little things about it on like the live stream and stuff.
More, he gets ranked higher.
Yeah,
and but he's elite though. He throws gas.
Serious gas, like easy gas. Honestly,
I really wish I got to face him this year, just because of I really want to see what is it that makes him so good.
Yeah, I feel the same way about when I also think about the top player of the year, Ryan McGilrath. I feel the same way about it because he has that fastball style, like a major league pitcher, with the way of his arsenal and the way he commands a couple of pitches. And unlike most pitchers who have 8, 9, 7, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pitches, he's only down to 1 or 2, and still no one can figure out how to hit one of the most straight pitches most people see throughout the entire year. It boggles my mind.
It's really hard. It moves enough, and it's very different. And then when you kind of start to get on him,
he switches up.
He'll just do something a little different. He'll just invent a new pitch.
Invent a new pitch.
You know what
Classic
I'm talking
wiffle move.
How he did that against
Prove that stuff out of nowhere.
He throws the most unexpected pitch. I don't even know the best way to describe it is the opposite of an unscuffed slider that's submarine. He threw it submarine that moves the exact opposite
so
way.
a rising screwball basically at that point, right?
No, it wasn't really rising. It just kind of
like this? Like this?
No, it was like a you gotta find it.
I gotta find it
because the opposite. It's like a swerve, but basically going the opposite direction. You're saying
what?
That it's like a swerve, but going the opposite direction. Gotcha.
And it's everyone someone said what the was that, and then someone was like, he just invented another pitch ever in Ma.
Great stuff from Ryan. Honestly, I mean, he's also got a great bat, and I mean, personally, my opinion, I think I put him in. Go ahead.
He's a top hitter on so many other teams.
Yeah,
on the Jugs with Stant and DNAP and Tim.
How the hell do you face that lineup? Seriously, it seems incredible for also like the number 4 player on the list, Jordan Robles, who in the final had to face that entire lineup and held them at one run for as long as he could. Like that team was so hot, and he just took them all down for as long as he could. But you could only mess with fire for so long until it hurts you. And but still, just this team. And as I'm going back to Ryan, is it possible he could win it again? Because he seems to reinvent himself at every single possible point.
Yeah.
Sure, it's going to end at some point, but I think there's at least another year or so for where he could dominate the scene, where he can really try to separate himself, I guess, really into really serious all-time status in terms of like fast pitch pitching from that
Who
stance.
knows, who knows how long
Yeah.
he's
Or the
on top.
Jugs in general, because if you keep that core and they play anywhere, even 90% of what they're capable of, there's very few teams in Wiffs that can beat them on their day. So, really
Also,
good team.
Dan can throw, that just gives them more depth. So like imagine like you save Ryan till like the semifinals or finals. Like, they might be able to do stuff like that now.
Yeah, seriously.
And then,
If you get D-Nap throwing, then you get like the back end
oh,
arms a bit more red, a bit more Stant.
what?
If you get a bit more like red, a bit more Stant, a bit D-Nap especially getting him throwing, and you imagine that rotation. Ryan at the 1, you could argue DNAP or Ray at the 2 or the 3. Still that 1, 2, 3. Good luck. That's ridiculous. That is utterly you also got Red who could be your number 4 if you really want. You could really play the cards at 2, 3, 4, however you want. They're elite arms on just about every other team, a 1 or a 2. So it's like,
Yeah.
good luck. Good luck.
And then if it wants to try something new, they can just throw him in pool play for a tournament. That's what happened. That's how he started the sandpaper ball. He threw pool play just to see, like, oh, how is this gonna go? Of course, he has to face me. The first sandpaper game was against New School Risers.
Oh my goodness.
And then I had to face Styles the next game. I was not happy with that drop.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. That's a tall order going from Ryan. Going from Ryan, then just back to regular pitching. Your brain's already mind screwed, and you get that. Like, what the hell you do against that?
Yeah, Brian Adam text our group chat. Well, we're screwed. And I'm just, yeah. Why would you say that?
Yeah,
we're still good enough to squeak. We're gonna have to go 2-0. We should have went 2-0.
In UF, you're talking?
No, we should have beat Earl, but I didn't start.
Coincidence? Conspiracy? I think not. Well, I guess we'll keep that off for another second. But seriously, a really good list when it comes to like the top 100. Again, the Jugs. It's the Jugs. They're like the new C4. Orange is the new black. C4 is the top of the town. And as far as we learn, unless I guess you could say like a Will Smitty or Reed Werner in Circle City want to take the crown, or Jordan Robles wants to get over this however many year hump of not winning the big one, winning the national world championship, whatever you want to call it. If someone else doesn't want to take the reign, I think the Jugs will kindly dominate this sport for many more years to come. And seriously, Midwest has had a number of players on this list. Will Smitty at number 2, Grant Miller, the 2021 National Wiffle Player of the Year. On the list at number 6, Cam Smith, who was phenomenal for the Canes, battled Jordan Smith well into extras in the semifinals of UF this past October. Reed Warner too has made the number 10. There's so many good fast pitch. Midwest guys, and they're dabbling in the fast pitch. I think, and we'll talk about this. I want to make this an episode at some point. Remember this, Benny. But at some point in the podcast, we got to talk about the Midwest fast pitch stuff, because if they get on this stuff with what they've done, and then I can't even speak, with NWLA tournament and all the other formats that they have, if they get on the knife and cut ball stuff and they can really internalize it and play it a lot, I think they're going to give the Northeast, considering they don't play it as often, they're going to give them a serious run for their money. We saw what Will Smitty did and Reed Warner did, picking up the ball. UF tossing 90 poo, tossing easy gas at 6 foot, and making it an absolute nightmare. They beat the Jugs. Circle City beat the Jugs and won the pool in prelim round.
Game to the Jugs.
Yeah. I'm like, what? Like, that's unheard of. In the past 2 years, name as many pitchers who've done that? I think they're the only one. Only one. But ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Crazy stuff. But personally, I'd love to see Will Smitty, because he dominates Circle City, won MVP and stuff. He really had a phenomenal year, like probably the most complete year outside of really out of Miguel Ref and Stan and arguably Robles and all of Wiffs and fast pitch, whatever style you play in 2022. So, I mean, if you get, there's a number of names that could chase the Miguel Raf, a number of great names on this Drop 100. So, altogether, I think minus a couple of gripes, Drop 100 did a phenomenal job. Media coverage, while delayed, was fantastic. And I think 2023 is going to be a more interesting list now that we're seeing Midwest get into fast pitch, as I mentioned before. The jugs being the jugs. How are people finally in year 3, almost year 4 of this dominance? Is anyone going to figure them out? Probably not, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But that is the Drop 100 discussion complete. I think I'm a little winded for a bit, so I'm going to take a quick little break here, give the guys a second to recoup the brains, get everything back in together. Ethan, are you going to leave from us for right now? Or I don't know if you're short on time, just for us to wrap this up in the next segment or not.
We'll see.
All right, we'll see. I guess we're going to have the commercial break. We'll see if he's been still around. But this is the Scuffin It Up podcast. We got some stuff to talk CT website. So we'll talk about that after the break in just a short little bit. Stay tuned, folks. Let's go. And welcome back, Wiffling fans. Back into this phenomenal, I could say it honestly, with quintessential pure objective truth. This is probably one of the most fun episodes we've ever done, honestly. This is only on the Scuffin It Up podcast. Ben in the studio taking things by the lead once again. Unfortunately, Ethan has unfortunately been forced to leave us on this episode. Unfortunately, the call for sushi and a late night podcast. Unfortunately, not everything can win. Much like getting a Ryan McGill Rat screwball riser slurve, everything being pitched at once. Unfortunately, you can't always get what you want. Unfortunately, you can't stay on the podcast for very long. But it's great to have Ethan on the show. Great to have him talking with us, especially what we talked about earlier when we almost went to the diabolical future of Wiffs in like a very pessimistic, very almost philosophical kind of sense. So really cool to talk that stuff over. But Connor's still with me, so we still are down back to the original duo. We got the original squad, #squad goals, and we are back for the short little bit before we go ahead and wrap things up for the show, because it's been a long one for us recording. It could be short by the time you go ahead and listen to this, but it has been a long time for us. But before we go, we did want to chat up the biggest thing probably we have going on in Connecticut, other than the deceased CTWL not having for this year. I know as an organization, we're not obviously playing for this year unless some 12th hour active god would magically hand us $1 million and 55,000 players. If provided that doesn't happen, it probably won't. What we do have is the CT Wiffs review. For those who are not aware, the CT Wiffs review is what we've done the last 2 years and going to its third year now in 2023. It's a list we do, our end of year rankings, at least it's what it has been. I'll get to it in a second. What it has been in the past has been the end of year rankings, where we basically compare the top players and teams across the backyard leagues across the state, regardless of style, regardless of whatever policy, regardless of town, regardless of religion, regardless of anything. It's the objective, or at least they try to be objective comparison statistically between all the players and teams, and try to figure out, who is the best player, who really is the standout, the best player up and coming in the backyard with scene in the previous year, who showed out. So that's how it's been the last 2 years. But given the success of last season, considering when we did the CT Wiffle Awards for the first time live streamed to some absolutely beautiful, crisp audio quality from yours truly, we wanted to go ahead and expand that and really get into these backyard leagues and really try to support what they're doing. Even if they're not directly working with the league necessarily for competition, we still want to have these leagues compete against each other and get this camaraderie for the beautiful thing called CT Wiffs here in the Nutmeg State, or as we Wifflers call it, the Wiffle State. So we had some cool things we wanted to go ahead and announce when it came to that. And one of the first things I want to tell, and Connor, I haven't told anyone this, not even you, is that for the first time ever, the CT West Review will be coming out with a college style in-season bi-weekly rankings for teams. Wow. So basically, if you are aware of college sports, and probably you are if you listen to this podcast, I'm going to guess you probably know that. So I'll spare necessarily the talk on it. But every 2 weeks, I believe starting next week or the week thereafter, I'm waiting for a couple of weeks to spawn up, get some more games and more teams playing. But every couple of weeks, we will do a ranking, basically checking out teams' results, and who's won big games, stuff like that, and try to come up with basically a rolling top 5 or top 10 teams in the state throughout the season that will progress, obviously, as the seasons go, as the seasons in the different leagues go on. of course. So basically, this would be more of a kind of like a live update to the rankings, so that when we get to the end of the year, you might have more of a feel as to where teams might be in the rankings, as to where teams might be possibly in the running for team of the year when award season comes the way in September. So that's a cool thing we're going to do for that, I guess, on the side. I also personally will be doing a couple more articles. You can go check that out. Unfortunately, it's not on the sign here in the corner. I wish I did something like that. That would have been cool. That would have been cool.
Come
It
on,
would have been sick.
you gotta figure
But
it out.
I'll be doing a couple articles, I guess, in my own time. And kind of, if you ever get a chance to get your own little 2 cents on it, we will be putting some articles on the ctwl.com. That is thectwl.com. Our old website for the Connect Football League. We're still keeping it up and running, and we will have all the stuff in the CT Whiffs review we do throughout the year. The rankings, of course, as well as doing a couple articles where I'll give my opinions on top players, top storylines, all kinds of stuff, so you can stay up to date between the different leagues. So you don't have to go scouring for hours and waste all the time doing our important things in your life than watching a bunch of little kids run in the grass like they're still 12. We will at least spare that much for everybody, and you can go ahead, give that a good watch, and see that for what it is. It should be really fun, especially with a bunch of leagues and the number of teams that have been playing for the last couple of years. So personally, I think it should be definitely a good watch and a really fun time. Speaking of watching, though, we will be returning the backyard showcase for this year, provided obviously we get requests from leagues to go out. For the plan for this year, especially we're doing this more of the full year, not doing this last second. Connor, I know last year when we did kind of last second, but when we canceled our season late. But this year we want to at least make a stop once or twice to every league in the state for their key big matchups, as we're trying to market it to them. Get their big games, get their big talent out there, and we will of course live stream it. I'm not sure where we're going to live stream it right now. It might be through the Connecticut Football League Instagram. We might be able to do it on the Scuffin It Up, or exactly how that's going to work necessarily, considering that the league's not necessarily in the hand of that anymore for the moment. But the games will be streamed. We'll put them out to the Wiffling community, of course. You can go ahead, watch, see the players that we've talked about. Of course, we'll be giving our commentary about the top players we've noticed in previous reviews and stuff like that. And you should come to see the great Becker talent, which for so much I am forever grateful and so passionate about, to the point where I ranted about for about 25 minutes. So you can get to go ahead and learn about all that cool stuff and maybe get a glimpse of what the CT Whiff scene is all about. So we will have that going on. I'm trying to think of anything else. I think obviously with that stuff, we will have that. I think for this year, probably updates or at least the rankings are going to be the same, at least for end of the year. Probably going to do the same awards: CT pitcher, hitter, fielder of the year, all the stuff you saw in the awards. And September will all return very much the same. I think with where the state is, so the game we don't need to expand or contract the list, make it bigger or smaller. So that much will remain the same. I'm trying to think of anything else. I think, Connor, I guess if you have any questions, I guess as a impromptu fan for the moment, if there's anything you want to see that maybe I forgot to cover about the review for this year. I know we're going to do some fun stuff, live streaming, and I'll be doing my stuff, covering it on the side, at least from week to week, month to month. So
I actually do have a quick question for you.
let's hear it.
So, um, considering that last year, when we made our list review, there were a few players that, yes, we saw in person, and that's basically the only information we had on like certain players. You're going to do this every 2 weeks, and yeah, we're going to do this probably every 2 weeks, like you said, maybe
At least for the
every
actual physical rankings, like the online rankings, yes. So of
correct.
course, if it's with the showcase, that will come as we get requests. Of course, we'd like to come out once or twice to every league, as I said, and on top of that, we'd like to come out for every single league for their championship series, so we get their playoffs. Get the big champagne celebration, all that cool stuff. We'll have footage of that,
So
provided we get the opportunity to come out.
my question is you to you is this: if there are certain leagues that don't put out information, like last year, if I remember correctly, Stanford actually didn't put out any stats. I don't know. You probably know. I don't know yet. Are they putting out stats, for example, like Stanford? Do you know if they
Um,
are,
if they're going to put
or
out stats, or
have they even started yet?
for them, I haven't heard anything about them. Their Instagram, their only sign of communication is completely dead. And on the personal, the
Okay.
last time they communicated with us, they weren't necessarily very much forthcoming, CTWL or anything else, regardless. So,
Okay.
personally, not high hopes with that regard. I mean, I guess I'll personally go out and say it. If they contact us, great. We'll try to make it out. If they don't, then it is what it is, and we'll foresee go our different directions if they want to go that route. That's up to
Okay.
them.
And
Of course,
if there isn't if there is a league that doesn't put out stats that is well known, for example, um, I mean, obviously, I think you and I can both agree on this. We'll probably do the same thing we did last year. We'll check out a few games and make our ratings based off of that and based off the
not
statistics that.
quite, not quite. This year, especially we're
Really?
doing this full year, and we're going to do this basically from start to finish. I've already contacted all the leagues on their social media, and a lot of them have seen it. So we're going to go off whoever sends us stats, and of course, the game stuff will of course factor in to some degree. Getting to watch live, we'll get to make a couple impressions and a couple helpsies, I
Okay.
guess you want to call it that. But if they don't send us stats, they won't be in the rankings. Simple as that. It's only fair because we
Fair
want to
enough.
make sure we give an objective standpoint. And of course, our opinions will be mostly subjective. And the most objective thing we have is the numbers and stuff. Even though different formats, different leagues, different styles, different talent levels. At least the one baseline we do have is the numbers, the hard statistics. So that's a hard requirement. And I know a number of leagues were able to post. Thankfully, are able to post it and get that to us last year. So big thanks to them who were involved. Too many to name on that one. Not all of them, but of course, too many. I think a lot more than I personally expected, if we're being brutally honest. But hard stats are going to be a hard thing, and of course, we'll use the review kind of just to get everyone else into the know. And of course, a couple, maybe for you and I, use that as a bit more of a supplemental material to when it comes to deciding the end of your awards. So that's kind of the idea, more or less. But stats are going to be more so the objective requirement, and of course completing your season. That too. If you don't complete the season, probably it's going to be hard to rank. I mean, it's only fair compared to those who do, and if that shortens the rankings a little bit, then it is what it is. But we want to give it the credit to leagues who go through the credit of going through a full season, the trials and tribulations of that. So we will see that as it goes. But that's kind of how the rankings are going to be. For 2023, how the awards will be. Probably going to expect the Wiffle Awards again, probably September, Labor Day weekend, unless something else personally in our lives or the Wiffs calendar forces us to do otherwise. Hopefully, we should bring you great content on this podcast, the Scuffin It Up podcast, throughout the year, talking about the big news and leagues, as we already did, like the Wiffle 180, a couple of things with the season starting. So we'll talk those things over on the podcast. Any big players, any big movers we talk about when the rankings come out, impressions that I have, we'll discuss those and we will take it from there. But personally, I'm personally excited. I think 2022 was a cool little demo of it, and if we really have the leagues embrace it in 2023, in their local environments without having to do much other than just give us a time and a date. We'll be there and we'll talk with some whips and we'll get to see some cool action. I know like Darien last year really embraced it. I actually had a personal experience with Austin Kippett, and I don't know if you remember when I told you this. I asked Austin Kippett when he pitched the end of the game to close against Shacktown to get the sweep. I asked him, "Were you gassing him?" I put the live stream on. He said, "Hell yeah, I was." So I think the players really
Love
take
that.
kind to it, that they're
Love that.
onto it, and they want to go put on a good show. Even if it's for 5 viewers, but the fact that their live stream on there, they want to represent themselves, the team and league and stuff, really well. So for those who really take it to heart, who really want to embrace the opportunity to get their name out there, I think it could be a really cool opportunity. That's really kind of the whole reason we've done this. Even if CTW was still on, this is something we really want to do for a long time. So that's a cool thing we're doing. Personally, for us though. I did want to mention before we left, I know, Connor, we might try to do some tournaments. So I know we might not be playing necessarily fast pitch for this year, but we will dabble in some other stuff. I might be playing Merit in Plastic for a little bit. I don't know when that's going to happen or if I do decide to pull the trigger on that. But of course, trying to get ourselves into some tournaments. We've personally been invited to go play East Coast Wiffle, maybe hop on a team for a tournament or two if we have the time. Maw might be harder because of just logistics getting from Connecticut to Pennsylvania in that area. It's going to be tough. And also the Jeep's got a lot of miles on it. So, the Red Crusader sadly can't carry the Wiffler games forever. So that kind of hurts. All right. I mean, thing's still going. Shadow 192,000 miles.
Somehow.
Best V6 in the business. Yep. Seriously. But
You wouldn't even guess it, Ben, but my Civic, my 2016 Civic, almost at 100,000 miles.
lame. Talk to the
What
Jeep.
do you mean lame?
Dude, my Jeep's only got 200K. The thing should have blown up by now. Seriously.
Yeah, but yours is like a 2000 what? 2003, 2004?
2003. It's a Jeep though.
Yeah, 2003.
Jeep's got 16 miles a gallon. The thing
You
should have blown up
you
by
got
now. No shot.
13 years on me, and you only got what 100 extra thousand miles.
Yeah.
Lame.
Bet. But
Car
anyway,
Talk
though,
with Ben Fiore and Tactica.
what a phenomenal show. All we say is bet. It's like the Meep from Phineas and Ferb. We need the Meep translator to get through whatever the hell we're saying. But either way, I'm sure everyone's gonna understand that, but I don't care. I'll say it anyway.
I get
But
the reference.
we got ECW coming up. We'll probably play that tournament in that. I definitely want to, if I'm not tied to CTWL and all this stuff, and I got time with my internship and all my life stuff, and I'm slightly less broke and I have some money to spare, getting out to a Golden Stick yard tournament was a big goal of mine for this year. Whether that be in New York or we go all the way up to Vermont. Honestly, it's wherever there's decent competition and wherever we can, make the dates and logistics work, we'll go. We'll probably get our butts handed to and we'll come on home wondering why the hell we did in the first place. But I think it's a bucket list as a competitive whiffler trying to get on the tour and the circuit. It's a must do. And they've also welcomed us. Some players have asked us, as well as the social media have asked us to go out and send players. So I think it's only right we give them a shot, give them a chance of true justice if we can make it out logistically, and we will see what happens. I mean, also trying to make it out to UWIF. I mean, probably won't be playing, especially without CTWL to guide us there and probably look like a full season. So I doubt I get recruited to play on any teams. I mean, especially if I'm throwing 70 poo. I doubt I doubt it. Try and make it out to UF at least from a media standpoint. Who knows? Maybe you take the show down there. We have a live show down at UF's. Could be kind of sick. You know, could be like college game day down boys for the weekend. Watch them boys toss 90 poo and watch Tim Dean do what he does best, shuffling the cards of the tournament. So it'll be really cool stuff. But that's kind of at least all I have to talk about for right now. Unless Connor, you have something you want to add. I think I'm full. I think we're at a good spot to stop for the night. I think it's been a
I
long
like
time.
chicken.
I like Haven Hot Chicken. Shout out
I've
Haven
never
Hot Chicken if you want to sponsor us. If you're listening, Haven Hot Chicken,
Haven
give
Hot.
us a call.
I am so ready for Saturday.
Oh my God, they're
So
opening
ready
up
for
5 minutes down
Saturday.
the road from me in North Haven. Let's go.
Let's
Haven Hot coming
go.
on down. You better get Haven Hot or hotter, otherwise you are a pleb and you better go to Chick-fil-A because that's silly stuff. But that is going to do it for us on this episode of the Scuffin' It Up podcast with Ben and Conor, and also occasionally you'll see Ethan Weiner popping in from time to time for a couple of episodes. So that's going to do it for us. If you want to stay up to date with all the stuff with the Scuffin' It Up podcast, you know what to do. You know what to do. Exactly. You know what to do. Ben, you hit the button on the screen. Yeah, let's do it. That's awesome. Sick. You can now see on the screen if you're watching it on YouTube. You can follow us across all social media that we have: Instagram, Twitter, and now YouTube for the video podcast. You can find us at Scuffin It Up. That is at SCUF. Let's do this at SCUFFINITUP. You heard it here right, folks. I managed to use the screen in time. That is absolutely brilliant. Call me a genius. It's almost frightening. You can follow the stuff there, and I know, Connor, it
I
really
thought
is
we
fun.
already established this earlier, but I'm Jeremy. You're
But I
Hanley.
had to say it. It was a perfectly timed moment. I had to say it. I had to get it off my chest. But you can follow all the stuff there, of course, with the beautiful sign out there. Go give it a click, and you should be able to check out all the updates when we do fun stuff on there. And also, we might do some YouTube shorts and TikToks. I might think about the idea now that we have the video podcast stuff. Not sure if we'll do that at some point, or if I'll have time to, because college life got to be awesome doing that stuff. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe get some fun short form content of like highlights of the episodes and stuff like that. We'll see where the rainbow takes us, and we will take it from there. Of course, with your listening, make sure that you do go ahead and give it a listen on Spotify. Give it a listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever the hell you listen. Even if you listen on the 1940s radio station, you somehow find a way to get us on AM radio. I don't care. Give it a listen. Make sure you give it a good rating. Hashtag Conor 5 stars. Give it a 5-star rating wherever you listen, so the algorithms can bless people with our incredible show, and we can become a great part of the Wiffling scene and chase our dream of being one day the greatest Wiffling show to come since Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin. But that is going to go ahead and do it for us. It's been a long one, I know, Connor, but we've had, I think, quite a bit of fun on this one. Connor, if you have anything if you have to say here.
It was definitely an exhausting episode, but to say the least. But yeah, definitely one of the most fun episodes that we recorded to date, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next one. And Ben, just a quick question for you:
Shoot.
can I be the dog for the entire next episode?
You'll have to find out, folks. Also, next episode, we are going to do something brand new for this episode. I almost forgot to say this. Thank God I almost paused. All right, I did pause, actually. We're doing a couple of preseason episodes leading into all the Wiffle seasons that are going to be starting up. In a new series, we are calling The Wifflers Almanac, which is going to be, again, diving into some of the leagues, major leagues from coast to coast. And next week, ahead of the MAW Opening Day Tournament on April 22nd, we're going to do a full deep dive of Mid-Atlantic Wiffle. Join us for that next episode whenever it does release. I know this episode is going to come out, I believe, on Tuesday, April 18th. I think that Thursday, the 20th, is when we're expecting that episode 2 to drop. So go ahead and check that one out when it comes out. I know for that also coming up, we're going to be releasing episodes for the season. We'll be releasing out episodes every single Tuesday, weekly, unless we obviously post about it. We're not going to. There will be some breaks, but check this out every Tuesday, where you get your podcast. Visual, audio, doesn't matter. But I managed to hit the wrong audio. Good job, man. That is seriously, like, honestly, so beautiful.
Nice.
You cannot even make that up. But that's going to do it for us. For at Deco 933, all the way in a, I don't even know, gas-filled COD lobby in Madison. That's Conor DaCosta. From Studio 8, it's the greatest host in the Wiffling world, Ben Fiore. Thanks so much for listening. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Get outside and play some before the season starts. And until next time, it's a pleasure. See ya!